Welcome back! And SGB are up 1-0 in a game that everyone predicted them not to pick up any. So a fantastic start for them. GAM, let's be real here, they got absolutely murdered in game one. And as we go into draft, I just need you to give a quick summary of what went wrong for GAM and how they're going to fix it.
Again, I think they had a glaring draft issue, which I think you highlighted perfectly, where it's like, okay, GAM had a bit of an ego draft where they're just working their way through some of the problems of being like, hey, we're better and we're just going to beat you outright. When they left open things like, hey, pushing mid lane, not ideal to leave. Bottom lane, that's a little bit weaker at the beginning of the game. Into having a champion that needs to invade and kind of thrive at the beginning to do well like the Kazakhs. And as a result, like their game plan just kind of never really come to fruition. And so Saigon Buffalo just punished them time and time again. They were superior at team fighting the entire game. And I think part of that's composition. Part of it, again, is Saigon Buffalo had some struggles in team fighting against GAM a couple weeks ago. And they went to the drawing board and fixed it up. And I really like that. So coming in game number 2, seeing a bit more of a cohesive composition and maybe a little bit more early game power I'd like to see, especially out of the mid lane from this GAM squad, I think will do them quite a world of wonder.
Well, I mean, that might be immediately difficult because that's Blazers getting LeBlanc. This is a champion. Funnily enough, of course, LeBlanc has got a very weird role in the current meta, where she is going almost AD. It's so strange. But if you look back when Blazers was actually on GAM, he was not the best mid laner ever, but he looked like the best mid laner ever on LeBlanc.
Yeah, for sure. He was pretty beastly on the champion to be able to come out here. So, I find it funny because just a week ago it was like Cerberus was the higher seed, but they got beat by Team Secret because Hero, a flexed top laner into mid lane, was playing Triforce LeBlanc and ended up beating them in a base race situation, which was hilarious to watch. Wow, this is a bit of a Thanos comp in terms of, like, this is VCS, I guess. Okay, so Nocturne and Alistar is what I'm getting at, which is, Vietnamese Cow series, and obviously the Nocturne's like a favorite of this league. Even when it's weak, they just pick it kind of unceasingly. So that combined with the fact that they get this insanely powerful LeBlanc pick, GAM is going to much more standard. They say, okay, Zaya Rakan, Slater Palette gonna have a lot easier of a game, and Kadi going back to an old favorite on the Victor. Another slow mage, though. It just worries me that this is a lot more modern of a draft coming out from Saigon Buffalo once again.
Yeah, I have to agree, as we also do have the jungle hidden from GAM. I'm not hoping for anything that's similar to Kazakhs. I really don't want to see that. There could be something wild coming out in the bot lane. I think it's risky not to pick your ADC in the first 3 picks, particularly like Nocturne is not a pick that was almost ever going to get contested. You could have potentially held that. Does that mean Shogun is going to bring out something like, I don't know, Draven? He has a really mean Draven.
Yes.
It's a lot of potential, and given how well they did with that early lane pressure in game 1, Nyla being banned out as well, I think there's potential for Shogun to throw a wild card.
I think Ezreal makes some sense because it can pair with the dive of the rest of the team. It's really, really safe. How easy is it to kill LeBlanc Ezreal? It's not. It just isn't. Like, it's never going to happen. So especially against the Zaya Rakan, like, I feel like that laning phase is basically just going to be a wash. For a second, I was hoping Nyla would get through, because I'm almost like, I was talking about mages at the beginning of the stream, and with like the Gwen getting taken off, I was like, hey, can Coded Rumble come out with the Nyla? You just get double knock-up, you turn off the lights, you throw like a Rumble ultimate down on top, and you don't even have to play Rumble to know how to press your ultimate on top of a group of enemies.
I'm pretty sure it was banned in game 1 as well, so GAM reading that Rumble is a real possibility. I wouldn't be surprised to see it come out. Like, that is, like, you drop down that red carpet, it's really hard for them to do anything. I like this Wukong a lot. Levi going standard.
Yeah, I think the last 2 splits, he has, like, 25 games, and he's won 22 or 23 of them. It's, like, absurd how many games he's won on this shit. This is, like, his champion. Now, it isn't quite the same meta champ. This is a bit interesting, because this is unique beyond comparison to be able to pair the Lucian with this Alistar on the bottom side of the map. But again, this is nothing but unadulterated comfort, I think, coming out from GAM. They went out in game number 1 with some unique stuff, and they said, okay, this game, we're sticking with what we know. We're going Zaya Rakan bot lane, that's Slater Palette, great synergy already between the two. They're playing for great team fighting. They've got Wukong for Levi. They're not really pressed about anything right now. If they go back to Malphite or something comfortable for Kiaya, it wouldn't shock me in the slightest to go back to that same matchup from we saw in the last game, and to just go for this big, heavy team fight that we're used to. Ornn is in the same vein. Again, it's not the Malphite. Ki is more known for the Malphite, but the Ornn kind of fits into that mold as well, where they're playing for this heavy scaling 5-on-5, with Wukong being kind of the sword at the beginning of the game.
It's so interesting. Have we just swapped who's playing the style of draft from game one? GAM now playing a very, very structured, very holistically good team fight. And SGB being like, no, we're just going to throw wildcards, we're going to catch you out, we're going to hands check you. They've just swapped roles.
Yes, the thing that confuses me most about this side from Saigon Buffalo is the Lucian pick. The Lucian pick to me is just like, you have Alistar, so your Enchanter, your ability to utilize that passive where he gets bonus damage whenever he gets healed, comes exclusively from the Triumphant Roar passive, which is like every couple of minions or every time you get a couple of knockups, which does mean that you can proc it at the right time, but outside of that, you're just never getting to use that damage in any capacity whatsoever, which is curious to me. I haven't seen it all that often. Lucian Bot hasn't been played all that much over the course of this split, ever since Nami kind of fell out, so again, it's this really unique pick that also doesn't kill Ornn ever in the course of this game, so it's like, okay, we're really playing for early game. Saigon Buffalo really putting a bunch of faith in themselves to be able to crush GAM at the beginning of the game here. And I just got to see what it is that they're going to be capable of, because now GAM is saying, hey, if you don't beat us early, we're going to beat you late because we have a better 5-on-5.
And I think it's so interesting how that works out the way. They didn't even swap sides of the draft. This is 2 games in a row on blue side for SGB. GAM happy on the red. And given the draft they're able to get away with, I don't blame them. I'd be happy on the red side in this position. As we head back onto Summoner's Rift.
And now... Yeah,
I just want to, this man on your screen, Blazers. Again, he's just the focal point for me. I think he was MVP in game 1. Didn't actually get it on the stream. Guri did. Not unearned, but I think Blazers is the difference maker.
Yeah, again, Blaze's addition to this team made them look completely different from basically moment one. And even on picks like the LeBlanc, again, he's much more known for some of the AD stuff. I'm not going to say that. Again, if it comes back to standard mage play, I don't think it's ridiculous for them to say, okay, Blaze is probably going to step back and not play those type of champions if it becomes the meta or even in a series. Again, if you have to start contesting things like the Victor and you got to pull out some wacky mage picks maybe to make some things work, it might not be Blazes. It's probably going to be Froggy for the side of Saigon. But in these cases where you're playing these kind of consistent damage dealers, you're playing this kind of meta stuff that works in the VCS right now, Blazes has been the difference for Saigon Buffalo, and it wouldn't shock me to see him continue that success here now. And in a game like this right here, putting gold into Blazes is a good idea. Side laning with Blazes is a good idea. There's a lot of benefit to being able to put that focus into this mid laner and really play around him in ways that we haven't seen Saigon do for a very long time.
Neither bot lane leashing here. Both junglers will be moving towards bot. I think that makes a lot of sense given the potential aggression out of the Lucian. They do clear the ward. GAM getting the early trades. -1 minion as well. SGB's very scared of this lovers duo.
It's actually really funny because typically when you're playing into a melee matchup, especially like Alistar or like Leona at the beginning of the game, some Rakans will go spell thieves and go Q first and just bully them.
Shokin just lit on fire.
Yeah, you actually see the ramification of this, which is that Palette went for this Relic Shield and went W first as a counter to see if Slay decides to go in for a Q, but also as a way to get aggressive against the Lucian and try to drop some health around this level 2 mark, which means Slay or Palette get full control if Wukong wanted to go invade, if Levi wanted to go play a much more aggressive game. However, Guri is actually quite a bit ahead of him in terms of the clear speed at the moment, but that means that there's no gank potential towards the bottom lane. Slater Palette having a lot better control than what we saw in game number 1, where that invade came through from Guri on the Ivern against the Kazakhs. Again, the polar opposite of what you wanted to draft for, looking a lot different, fixing some of the mistakes that we had in the previous game.
And we do have Slater starting with a cull as well. So he doesn't really need to be winning lane like this. Going even in lane is just fine for him. But is able to, as you said, open up the map for Levi. Cardi as well, using that early Victor AoE to push his wave in. This is already very, very early on looking much better for GAM.
It very much is. And for a moment there, I almost considered the possibility of having the Lucian go into the mid lane and then having like the flex of the LeBlanc bot, which sounded crazy, but I was like, I think the Lucian might end up being a little bit of a better kind of one-to-one matchup against the Victor at the beginning if they choose to play a much more hyper-aggressive style like they did in the previous, where they want these kind of jungle interactions with Guri up against the Wukong. But that's clearly not the case. They're more than comfortable playing to go for that level 6 type strategy, try to get Guri onto the ultimate relatively quickly, and play around maybe some of the first item spikes of some of these champions, like LeBlanc Static Shiv, the Kraken Slayer for Lucian, and things like that. So that means, like, for a little while here, GAM's going to have some decent presence on the map. I wouldn't even be surprised if they ended up grabbing, like, first Rift Herald, first Dragon pretty easily from the side of Saigon Buffalo.
Yeah, Levi getting a lot of vision as well, just walking around the bottom side of this jungle. Blazes lands the chain. There's no real follow-up here. This is just going to be poke onto Cardi. He doesn't care at all. Still able to just step back up, throw out his lasers, scaling them, just safely pushing in, I should say, on this Victor.
Yeah, nothing crazy at all. I think it's Blazes trying to get a little bit of break, maybe to get a teleport back to try to play for the Dragon that's going to be spawning here in about 30 seconds. And you can see, actually, that's path that's kind of matched by Guri, where he's starting on this top side. That is the direction that he decided to go. Stayed on the map a little bit.
Sorry, he's
just missing minions.
Just missing CS, looking like me in a minion wave.
He actually did that earlier too. He got caught off guard because I think he was going to double tap a minion, and then he just couldn't quite get it done because it like executed a minion with the second shot instead of the first shot. He was maybe like 1 or 2 AD short of actually getting a kill on a minion, and it cost him another minion, which kind of was really sad to see. So again, to me, this is the weird pick that came out during the series. I'm still confused what the plan for the Lucian is here, because you're terrified of the Ornn, you're terrified of some of the frontline here that you just cannot get through if you're Lucian, and he's usually a backline diver nowadays, being able to kind of apply pressure to like Victor and Xayah. There's plenty of protection here for the rest of this team.
Blazes has to back right off. That's a level 6 Cardi. Levi floating around as well. Blazes needs to back and just burn his TP.
Yeah, I think he wanted to do it earlier, and that was kind of the point of Guri showing up, was more or less to try to buy some space, but he just wasn't able to actually make it happen, and as a result now he's a little bit slower. He's not quite level 6. That means first Dragon actually kind of available, as long as there's a massive...
Oh, what was that? Lovely play by Slay, not really getting rewarded. Blaze is flashing forward, does land the chain onto the Victor, but they can't fight this. They're down level 6. Guri just taking so much damage from the Chaos Storm. The fact that Carti is that level ahead, just changing everything.
Made a world of difference. Not to mention, again, it is the AD. Wow. What happened on bot side? We just missed bot lane play.
Shogun! Give us a replay!
You're an animal, Shogun. Okay, that's what they drafted it for, when Shogun gets to play in the solo lane up against anybody he wants. And that completely bails out Saigon Buffalo, because for a moment there, it's like, okay, you are down a level in mid lane, you lost all your summoners, you have basically no presence on the map. As soon as Levi gets back from his back, he is going to go take the Dragon, and there's no presence towards Rift Herald, because you're down all these additional summoners. Cardi's got all this control. This is the one place that
Slater takes the fight.
Against Slater. Oh, he missed his feathers.
Slater! Does he step back up?
I think Shogun might just, like, go after it.
Bang.
No way!
Oh, that is disaster.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, it's the one thing that bails out all of this play that came through from Saigon Buffalo, because for a moment there, they were just hard losing. It's like mid lane is not going well. They lost summoner spells. They're getting bullied by Cardi. They just had nothing in the tank. And then out of nowhere, Shogun gets this massive push, denies Slater a bunch of minions, gets first blood, and now this Lucian gets to play around this first item spike a little bit faster than the Xayah does, which means it opens up the Dragon and the Rift Herald possibility of fight coming through here for Saigon Buffalo. It might buy them the time to get the wave control in mid lane under kind of control when the static shift comes through by just having the Lucian. If they can trade those objectives 1 for 1 and get Blazes back to a pushing state against this Victor, there is a real chance that there's a space for Saigon Buffalo to actually find plays in this game.
I completely agree. I'm also sort of looking at the chance that we do see Blazes do the hero route. Who is stopping this? I know this sentence still feels wrong. Side lane LeBlanc.
Yeah. That's a good point. Like I said, on one aspect, if you pull LeBlanc away from the team, I don't know how you're ever killing Ornn in this game. But on the other hand, again, if you split LeBlanc off onto the side, somebody's got to respond, and you might do it with Kadi, but you have the real fear that you're just going to get pushed in, you're just going to get assassinated again and again. So you might have to do it with Kiaya, and if that's the case, you're taking a big chunk of both like the front line and a lot of the damage soak and a good amount of the CC out of the team fight from GAM that could be the difference maker. So I appreciate it coming out here from Saigon Buffalo if they could set that up.
Levi goes in with the Cyclone. They immediately jump onto the backside, all out from the Cassante. Coded flashing away after they've already picked up the kill. He will go down. Guri going low. He will fall as well. Slay and Blazers, the only ones here. They don't do enough damage at this point. Just throwing auto attacks in from the side, trying to do what he can onto Levi, but Kiaya, a real problem. Paulette forces Slay off. GAM have full control over the Herald.
Yeah, that's a 2-for-1. That's probably just going to be an immediately one Rift Herald objective, which is that probably dooms a fair amount of the early game.
There's a lot of pings. I wish we were seeing it. Slay moving forward. Blazers wants this. Slay's just going to go down. Blazers trying to space it well. Moving over onto Kiaya. He sees a low health target. Can he get one more auto? He can't. The Herald goes down. Levi picks it up. But now Guri has re-entered the map. But with Kati here, SGB, this is just a mistake. Blazers trying to get away. Levi going low. Should be going down. No! He kills Guri before he does. Blazers over the wall. He doesn't pick up the kill. Oh, it's a disaster, Rebel.
Oh, it's really disastrous from the side of Saigon Buffalo. They doubled down on this top side play when they could have probably redeployed into bot side to grab the dragon. I understand the kind of pressure that they're under here. The point is, they are kind of doomed at this point in the game because Kadi's already so much more of a beast than he was in the previous. They have basically no damage so far on Blazes to be able to work with inside of this one. They really need to be playing around the Lucian much more than they were able to, but the problem is Shogun just never left bot lane. He kind of was trying to get some kind of gold advantage of his own, and yes, he did push Slater out. He has a significant advantage over the Xayah, but throwing that much resource into topside has given so much back to GAM. Look at this, 3 kills on the Wukong, 3 assists on the Victor, gets him the first upgrade. That means even when the static shiv is done, it's not likely Blazes gets wave control. I mean, it is, I'm not going to call it doomed quite yet for the side of Saigon Buffalo, but that is about as good an early game as you could ask for from the side of GAM if you wanted something like that. They basically have free reign into the mid game to do anything they please.
And it just feels like, to me, after that initial scuffle at the Herald, you just rotate down, you do the Dragon, you use Shogun and the lead that he has. Sure, I mean, most of the time, the Dragon is the quote-unquote worst objective, but you still get the 1-for-1, you're fine in that situation. Just throwing good money after bad.
I mean, out of fairness too, like how many of those, like Blazes is tickling people, but he was probably an auto off of killing 2 people over the course of that fight.
In comes really Nocturne Guri! That's disgusting! He just jumped into the middle of 3. That's just a shocker.
Yeah, I mean, ult's in the middle of 3. They just don't have the rest of the damage to kind of follow up. Again, if this is like an AP LeBlanc, which is actually wild to think about just how powerful AP LeBlanc could be, if you go in like Nocturne with that, and then you get this big burst against any of these members, it can actually make a big difference because, I mean, again, you at least have some upfront damage to work with where Guri can maybe find some kind of kill. But because Blazes is gone for this consistent damage, the static shiv to start with, and hasn't completed the item, so much burst is missing from that initial engagement that just is not there. And again, as a result, that means like Levi is never really taking damage to start with. The Guri doesn't have the damage to be able to work with it. Kadi's not really taking any damage. This Q is keeping him alive so often inside of fights. Again, it's like over and over again, Saigon Buffalo is playing for this early advantage, and it's just not working. And I'm not surprised that it's not working. Yeah,
I mean, I feel like this has just been quite poor decision making from Guri. I don't like to put it on players like that, but you're not there's no one spell to spell shield in the middle of that 3. They've got like 4 forms of CC and they only need 1.
Oh my goodness. Okay. The other thing is that, again, this Victor seems to be doing so much better than the Syndra. The Syndra and the Victor both considered kind of scaling picks, but the big difference is Kadi is just, look how comfortable he seems on this pick comparative to the other. I mean, he is just bullying Blazes again and again. Even though Blazes doesn't look particularly not sufficient on this LeBlanc, it's just that, again, the comfort for Kadi looks so different in this game compared to what it was in the last. And again, time and time again, we've seen bot lane. It's going well for Shogun. He's just winning the one-on-one against Slater, but it doesn't matter because he's not pulling enough gold to be able to kind of get his weight off the ground and win in team fights. You're hoping that Lucian's going to be able to do something, but ultimately, if this game ends up playing out the way that it probably should, there's not anywhere near enough gold in Shogun to be able to justify the fact that jungle mid is winning outright for the side of GAM.
I think it's almost impossible to come back from this one as SGB. Maybe impossible is a strong word, but extremely difficult. Carty is just, what do you even do? He's a fed victor. Like, you just don't really get to exist anymore.
Oh. Yeah, again, as soon as you get the Aftershock upgrade for the E, the static shiv doesn't matter because you're basically doing the same thing that the static shiv is doing for the LeBlanc. And the gold just wasn't there. They almost needed to put that much focus into Rift Herald to start the game and throw it into LeBlanc just so that you could get that itemization breakpoint before Cody got that kind of Victor Bucks upgrade. But they didn't, and because of that, their whole game plan is kind of thrown asunder. Because now, you're not team fighting this team. It's never going to happen. You're not beating a 5-on-5 against a Wukong, Zyre, Rakan, Victor, Ornn. Like, it's just never going to happen. So now it's like, okay, what does Saigon have to do? And this is where, like, I know there's critique, and I think warranted critique of Guri's decision-making, but if they don't do things like that and find ways to succeed, they're just never going to win the game. Like, it's never going to, like, you're hoping beyond hope that Blazes is the one that clutches in side lane pushing and things like that, but I mean, it's like you're hoping for a Fiora to just like 1v5 and split push the entire game of their lonesome when they don't have an advantage at the beginning of the game, and again, not loving that idea. I think Saigon Buffalo just doesn't have a lot of avenues to win now.
Yeah, I completely agree. I feel like, given the Game 1 situation where they played a very regimented draft, I'm curious what the read was that made them switch to this more volatile sort of feast or famine draft, and what they're going to go back to in Game 3. As I'm sort of already thinking about that. I know that seems very doomer, given it's only about a 2k gold lead, but I just think it's so difficult. Slay on this Alistair as well. I don't think he has much access to this game. It's not his fault, but I don't think he does anything.
Yeah, Slay's Alistar has been really good all split. Again, another aspect of this is it feels like this composition was like almost built around the idea of getting the Nyla, and when they didn't get the Nyla, it's like they just panicked and they were like, okay, what do we play? It's like Lucian. It's like that's another early power champion to try to team fight with, I guess. But like it doesn't do anything near what Nyla does because Nyla's just a very different champion design altogether. And then, like, again, picking the tank top lane was so curious, too. If you're going to go Feast or Famine, just go for, like, a Vayne top, go for a Rumble, go for Kennen, go for something damage-oriented, because Coded just not doing anything. I mean, it's not that it's not Coded's fault. It's not like I'm blaming him for the game. It's just that, again, what is the Cassante going to do? He's just sitting alongside the Ornn. Both of them are scaling up as the rest of the map falls to pieces, when you could have maybe used this one-on-one solo time against Kiaya to be scaling something up in terms of damage to team fight with that just doesn't exist in this one.
It almost feels like all he can really do is grab Wukong in team fights.
Yeah.
And, I mean, if that's all your Cassante is doing, it's not terrible, but it's not great either. Plett moving in, grabbing some vision. Coded has gone all out. They want to get this kill onto Kai'Sa. In comes Guri. This is good play here from SGB. They pick up a Herald. They pick up a kill.
Yeah, I have to give a ton of credit. That was actually really well played because they timed their CC, specifically Slay actually timed the CC perfectly to force the Bellows Breath out so that he didn't get CC'd under the tower right about the time that the Ram needed to come through. The only way he catches back up to the Ram is if Kiaya flashes backwards and then ults forwards to catch them under the tower, which probably would have traded Guri in a 1-for-1 situation. But because he died, and yes, they're going to trade Rift Herald for top lane here, they're probably going to get a tower, but they've already lost bottom tower and there's no way to defend. Blaze has also lost enough kind of health that he probably won't be able to stick around all that much. So you get some gold into Shogun. Again, probably just not the greatest of play. It's about as good as you could expect from Saigon Buffalo, but it certainly didn't save you.
No, it hasn't. It hasn't sort of patched the wound, but maybe it's begun staunching the bleeding. They are going to lose this Cloud Drake. See what Rift we go to. SGB is praying for Chemtech. Rewarded every time!
Wow. Okay. All right. That's pathway to redemption number 1. They're 2,500 gold down. I think the next thing that you really want is to be able to get some additional gold to get Blazes onto his mythic item. It looks like he's going for Ludens, so that could be some really big punch. Once you get Shogun into the same place, maybe you've got some power. Again, at that point, like, Victor is going to have some damage, but you're going to have some return damage against the Xayah and the Victor. And so if you keep the Ornn out of fights and you have everybody else, you're doing okay. Not to mention, a lot of these kills are in Levi. Levi's on 2 full items right now compared to everybody else. But, like, you kill Wukong, and that's a decent chunk of gold. That's out of the fight, decent shutdown gold to go over to your team. I mean, it's not impossible. Again, Saigon Buffalo is not completely out of it. It's just still a very difficult team to fight against. And again, the longer that you do nothing against Kiaya, the easier it is for Ornn to access the rest of the team fights. Once he hits 15, 16, gets those upgrades for Victor and Xayah, you just don't care about the rest of the game. You can just group, press your ultimate, get big knockups, and not worry about the rest of the game because your team will carry you from there.
SGB have deployed this 1-3-1 though. They could move further towards that style. Blazers, pretty unkillable here. This AD LeBlanc, this static LeBlanc, I mean, it just clears waves forever. There's really not a lot you can do about it. Levi spotted. They're not going to go on him. There's too many reinforcements close by. Blazers, again, poking his head forward. We'll just clear out the wave. Coda doing the same thing on the side, and there's the Nocturne ultimate. Gets the ult and the flash.
Okay. I mean, they go for a little bit of something, and
Levi,
yes, they get Slater's...
Hang on, moving in. Levi trying to zone off Shogun. Slay has to flash.
Okay, that's flash for Slater and ult for Slater broken in exchange for Slay's flash. Okay, he just wrapped around by Kadi. I don't think he was expecting Kadi to come in from the top side of the map. Bottom lane, though. Teleports
being called. There's going to be 2 lovely knock up by Kiaya, but Blazers does have that double dash to get away. But look at the rest of GAM. Here they come. Paulette looking for entry. Manages to find both. Blazers has another dash. He's on the run, but will go down. Coded low as well. Might be able to go for a run. Is on the Cassante, but can't do it. Chooses to die to Cardi, and the wheels are off the wagon. I think they've skidded into a ditch.
And honestly, at this point, Levi's an absolute beast. That was a Kadi difference pretty much across the map. Not only the roam coming in from top lane, but the response TP into the bot lane on the combo knockup against Kiaya is literally what got them to deny Blazes a kill. Like, for all intents and purposes, no TP, Blazes gets a kill into the bottom tower, probably gets the bottom tower as well, and becomes a monster. It was this roam that did it. Right here. Again, I think it's a brilliant play. I'm like, okay, Blaze is underneath this tower. If Coded's able to tank long enough, you're going to be fine. But the knockup alongside the TP drops Blazes to below half health. Now you can't fight. You can do basically nothing here. When you were expecting a kill and a turret, the reinforcements come into full force off the back of Kadi finding this response TP to the rest of the team. You gotta love the way he just played that situation. I know we talk bad about Kadi being maybe the worst performing member on GAM year in and year out, but games like this show you why it is that he is consistently the #1 mid laner in the VCS, because he's able to make plays like this happen with relative consistency as well.
Yeah, 100%. And Carty, I mean, it's good to see him really come back. He's a player that's gotten so much criticism. Some of it justified, some not so much. But seeing him able to come in after a fairly difficult game 1 where Blazers, I think, was the clearly better player and have a really, really solid performance on the Victor is Coded. Once again, moving in onto Kiaya. Don't think he'll be able to go under the tower, though. He's going to try.
Nothing.
Nope, never mind.
Yeah, not really going to work out, unfortunately. So, but the rest of his team is starting Baron, and I think you're okay with that. You've got TP on Kiaya, you've got TP on Coded. They're both going to rejoin the fight as fast as possible, but they already have this almost dead. So it's a question of when does Guri press the ultimate and try to get into the pit.
There you go. He's going to try and get his way. He doesn't get a smite, of course. In goes Blazers, trying to get a little bit onto Paulette, but he can't do it. They're getting absolutely ripped apart. Cardi, the machine is rising. Slater will be the one to get the kill. Paulette over on the side. They pick up Guri. That'll be one for Carti. Blazers, again, these auto attacks are just not doing anything. And GAM have just forced them out.
Yeah, I'm sorry. We're running into a situation where it's time to bust out the old catchphrase Voshaden. Like, the damage just is nowhere to be found right now on the side of Saigon Buffalo. Like who are you hitting here? Like, Shogun had multiple auto attacks to throw into Levi, multiple auto attacks to throw into a couple of different members, and just nobody was even close to dying. And he's got the most. Blazes has a little bit too, but he couldn't even pick off Paulette from like 400 health or something like that, because the one auto, the one Q, nothing like that, even with a static shift proc, just is not sufficient for them to be able to clean up the rest of the fight. I really think that they're just just down and out in this one, unfortunately, in Saigon Buffalo is going to have to figure out what it is that they want to do in game number 3. I know it's a little bit doomer. We talked about it a little bit, but I think this was the nail in the coffin. I mean, look at this fight. Like, Shogun just gets to, he almost half health immediately, pops the ultimate, gets some more damage off, but like, who can he hit that actually matters? Like, there's nobody that he's going to be able to do that to.
No, it just doesn't matter. There's just too much delay as well. That instant damage from the Nocturne just doesn't really come in because there's Levi Clone.
No, and again, I mean, how many times Paulette almost died but didn't quite to Blazes? There was a little bit of damage. Here's one maybe catch, but... I mean,
it's not even! Kiaya doesn't care. Carty's doing damage. Slay with a lovely play. He's trying his best on the Alistar, but Carty's trying harder as he picks up 2. Kiaya gets the other.
Yeah, at some point the forfeit button's just got to be thrown out there. It's not looking good here from the side of Saigon Buffalo. They're getting caught now. I mean, that was the best play that they're going to get. Coded trying to be goated here. Kill Slater.
He's trying. I mean, look, at this point you may as well fling the poop at the wall. Shogun does get a kill.
Unbelievable.
Everyone knows. Everyone understands where this game is going.
Yeah. It's unfortunately done for. Bottom inhibitor's already down. Top inhibitor or top inner tower is getting pushed right now by Kadi. That should go down to mid inner tower. I mean, the whole base is basically just dead to rights. If GAM wanted to, they could walk it in and try to find some additional play. They're going to play a little bit more patiently because they know that they don't want to risk anything. But honestly, even if Saigon Buffalo won 1 or 2 full fights, like full 5-on-5s, I don't know that would be enough to take them out of this bad of a situation right here.
I mean, maybe if they win 6 or 7, then we can start talking. Look, Conan tries real hard, and at this point, you may as well try. Like, you are a gorilla in the zoo trying to earn the last banana. You got to fling your poop.
Insane, dude. The fact that Shogun was able to time this properly. He was also like a touch away. If this Q doesn't hit him, like Paulette just has to flash Q and play. Paulette's been a beast this game. I think he's at 100% kill participation. Although that topside fight with Kadi, I think, unfortunately knocked him off of it. Yeah, he's 12, and the 3 top lane are the only 3 he missed all game because they decided to make the mid lane play happen instead. So you have to give tons of props because Paulette's been a beast in this one, but literally their mid jungle combination was a large part of it. Paulette's influence has been a large part of it, and they haven't had to do much else. So GAM has found their strides. They're a lot more comfortable in this game, although it is unfortunate because I really wanted to see them be able to branch out and use some of the unique picks, use some of the stuff they worked on over the split, and try to get some success against Saigon Buffalo instead of continuing this trend of having to go back to comfort again and again. There
is a certain amount of poetry that from the ashes of SBTC, the rival of GAM, the chicken gets burnt. It's left in the oven too long. And they find that one delicious nugget that is Paulette. He comes home. And look what he's doing. He's a freak.
Yeah. Paulette played on GAM way back in the day.
He did. He sure did.
So Slater did not, or Slater did?
Slater was on Flash. Slater was on the Flash team, but we do have this last engage. 2 have immediately gone down. Guri going low is the next target. They can't quite finish him off, but it's only 2 members there. Carty try to get the last burn, won't quite do it. It'll only be Guri left watching as the Nexus is destroyed. His plate goes low, but it doesn't matter because you can beat GAM once, but you can't beat GAM twice as they come back in and a dominant performance. They take game 2 off SGB.
There we go. Again, the superior play of Kadi in this one, I think, did quite a bit of a number. I liked what Levi was able to accomplish at the beginning of the game. And again, the influence of Paulette was amazing to the point where, like, Kiaya wasn't the most necessary, and neither was Slater. They didn't have to do all that much heavy lifting because the rest of the team did it for him. And you got to give a ton of appreciation. Look at that damage start. You got to love that from Kadi. At this point, also, figuring out what it is that they want to do with the mid lane meta, because Kadi has played now Syndra Victor, and the opposite side is the polar opposite. They're playing the Medicine, they're playing Tristana, they're playing LeBlanc, they're playing Jace, they're playing all that stuff. You gotta figure out what to do. Do you still want to stick with Blazes, still want to stick with this aggressive kind of dualies type strategy, or are you worried that Kadi's going to be able to continue to sandbag that and switch off the champion, or even fully switch on a Froggy is something to consider as this game continues as well, or the series continues?
I think it's a really hard call. Froggy is the potential. He is that wild card that could come in. It would be a pretty dramatic shift. honestly, I think the thing I'm looking at is the bot lane. I agree with you. I think they were banking on getting Nyla, and when it got banned out in the second phase, really good read there by Hanke and the GAM coaching staff. Once that was gone, the Lucian, don't get me wrong, Shogun played well. He got a solo kill, but it didn't do anything. It didn't fit the team. I think Nyla really would have. But we're going to go to a short little break. We won't be too long. And we're going to bring you game 3 of our best of 5. And this one is getting hot. Welcome back, everybody. It is Game 3 of Saigon Buffalo taking on GAM here in the VCS Summer Split Playoffs. It's 1-1. It's been fairly dominant both games as well. My name is Karis. With me is Rebel Fox, and we are going straight into draft.
Yeah, it feels like the first two games were pretty well dictated by draft, so this is feeling like one of the more important phases of the stage right now. As game one, the draft was a lot more kind of ego-filled from the side of GAM, and then in the last game, obviously, you had this really funky draft that forced in the beginning of the game coming out from the side of Saigon Buffalo. So I'm hoping both teams settle into a pocket where they get a bunch of comfort, they get a very cohesive composition, and we get to start seeing kind of interactions when it comes to individual gameplay mechanics, rather than seeing this kind of really heavy disparity in the compositions themselves. This is something I've been missing. Jace has been so big for many, many teams over the course of the split. This is the first time we're seeing it in this series so far, and it's going over to the side of Saigon Buffalo, who I like because they can flex it between coded, but it's a really great champion for places to have.
That it is. I also think it's interesting that, again, the SGB is on blue side. Presumably they would have had the pick that time, as they were the losers, but both teams happy with staying on their side of the draft. That Rel, once again for Paulette, was decent on it in game one. There was a few notable mistakes out of him, compared to a pretty incredible Rakan.
Yeah, okay. Alright now. We're going back to what we did before, which is... not sure I'm loving this from the side of GAM so far. Okay, was that just an instant pick? Is that what happened? Okay, no, okay. We were just loading in on the other side. There was no timer on the other side, so I didn't see it. And I thought it was just an grab in Italy, but that's not going to be the case. You still have the flex potential of the Rel, I suppose, between Levi and Paulette. And now we go for the Rel. Okay, I'm just lost here. They're killing me in this series right now with some of the decisions that's being made. But at minimum, we are getting some adaptation inside the draft. This Rumble, I think, is really helpful for contesting the Syndra because the Equalizer is such a long distance. You push her out of fights where she really wants to step up. So again, it's this kind of this push back in making sure that anyone can follow the heavy engage that the Rel and maybe things like the Malphite or something else aggressive would want to bring to the table.
Yes, it's really interesting because again, it almost feels like they want this Nyla. Like, surely it's hitting the ban again though. If I'm GAM,
I would say that. Yeah, no, I think you're right. Mostly because they already have a bunch of dive and a bunch of AoE damage to work with, and like Alistar is also available. So if you're not careful here, you end up giving up the Alistar and you end up giving up the Nyla over to Shogun Slay, which is one of their preferred combinations. And that helps in a couple of ways because that's also a really good deterrent for the Rel. So now you have a lot of ability to kind of catch or counter engage the really, really heavy kind of jump in from the side of GAM. And especially now with the Zeri, who wants to do this crazy movement, auto-attacking and follow up on a bunch of damage, you don't even have the flex potential of going to a Siege Engine Kai'Sa with like the AP build. And they ban the Ashe, which is probably actually directed more towards Slay than it is towards Shogun, even though the champion is absolutely nuts in Shogun's hand. It does so much damage when he's got the ability here. But like, I don't know. I'm just not feeling the idea that they don't think that there's lockdown CC on the Alistar and the Nyla necessary to follow up with a Rumble and a Jace. Like, I'm just not convinced that they're giving this enough credence.
I don't want to say anything too early. I smell a Karthus. I can just smell it.
I like that.
I smell a Levi Karthus because I feel like they almost are baiting the Ali Nyla and basically saying we think we can play on the fringe of team fights well enough that if you go in, you get one person, and that's really not enough.
Now, I would be a little cautious about that prospect, not because of your idea. I don't think it's a bad idea. You just run the risk of, like, you could go Gale Force Prowlers Nyla and get absolutely shreked by an engage coming through from Shogun, which is the real fear. And that's the one kind of knockback is like, how well can Levi still play the Karthus? Okay. It's a bit risky to be going for Nyla, especially if you go for the Alistar here. Although, again, Alistar's getting so much value because, again, you have point-and-click knockdown CC for the Zeri. You knock out Aatrox. You knock out, like, Rel. Like, you have so much value here. I'm so surprised they didn't go for this. This is, like, a draft where it could be very, very useful. And it's also got mobility to match what the Zeri's going to be able to bring to the table with like the Nyla. But you have the fear that the Lulu could come in and something like that, and maybe that's what they want. So they go for a more stock standard and say, hey, Aphelios, Rakan, perfectly fine. They're going to be able to play the front to back relatively easily. They don't have the same real dive threat on the side of GAM. And the exchange is that they have this Syndra that's got a bit more poke to work with in this one.
Yeah, so they do move that Rel to the jungle. Of course, I got a little bit baited, given that Paulette played it in Game 1. Of course, that is still a very big flex. Levi taking that one. I've got to say, I think GAM have put together a really solid draft here. I think it's going to be hard for the Rumble to get a huge amount of value. There's just so much very quick mobility on the side of GAM. You're not standing in this equalizer.
Yeah, that's why I was like, okay, like you picked the Rumble almost with the fullest intent to be going for things like the Alistar that have immediate knockdown and Nyla and all these other type of champions, and then you just pivot away from it, which feels like exactly what happened in game number 2 as well. It's like Saigon Buffalo's almost not comfortable enough to play the strategy that they're setting up for themselves, which is really, really strange to see, that they're kind of going away from the stuff that is feeling good. Also, really important, we have seen basically no influence from top laners for the first 2 games of the series. This is a lot different because we get Rumble Aatrox, so both top laners are going to have a lot more damage and a lot more brawling to be able to accomplish in this one. So we might see our first shift up into top side potentially from the 2 junglers, which does change the dynamic of both the mid and the bot lane in the grand scheme of things. So I'm really excited about that because for the most part, top lane's been an island outside of like the first gank of the series. I really want to see what it looks like when Kiaya and Coded get involved, because I think Coded's been playing this series pretty well so far. Even though he's been on an island, he's been on tanks. This is his first real test.
Yeah, and of course, Kiaya going onto his Aatrox. This is a champion he's famous for. He's fantastic at the Aatrox. He's always been incredible at this champion. The champion is very strong at the moment as well. I completely agree. I think this might be, 2 scaling bot lanes. Maybe that becomes the island, and we're looking at a top lane brawl.
Yeah, there's a lot of options here. It also takes off quite a bit of mid lane pressure from Kadi, which I think was a big problem in game number 1. Because it was tank versus tank, like, what are you supposed to do? Like there's no reason to be ganking top lane if you're Guri. So it's like, okay, Guri doesn't have to worry about top side. He can focus on the mid lane and just kind of put pressure there, focus on the bot lane, put pressure there, and can control a lot more of the map by focusing on the bottom side. This game, you can't do that, because if Kiaya starts going crazy, it starts beating the heck out of Rumble. Like, you have to worry about Aatrox just running your fade pretty much the entire game. So there's your problem. Is like, now Guri has multiple places to try to worry about, where like bot lane, you got Aphelios Rakan. Level 1, level 2 is going to be really hard against this Zeri Lulu. It's not going to be a simple laning phase whatsoever. And then top lane, again, the Rumble should have like priority here. But again, you 1 kill over to Kiaya and it could completely go into the dumpster. And then you basically got a scaling matchup in the mid lane between the Jace and the Syndra. And as a result, you might just have 2 losing side lanes with not much presence in the mid lane to be able to move out into the jungle. And Guri's Nocturne could be just completely useless.
Yeah, I mean, and the Nocturne last game really didn't impress me either. So Guri going to have to make up for that one, at least in my mind. Paulette taking a fair bit of damage here. Needs to be a bit careful up against the range from that Aphelios green gun. But these are the 2 that we really want to be looking at.
Yeah, and notice Guri's pathing towards this side of the map. Mm-hmm. Levi's pathing away from this side of the map. And so they might actually be leveraging it as just a, hey, we can play to bottom side. We can play towards this Zeri and this Lulu. And the trade-off is like, maybe they end up getting some play against Aatrox and maybe some counterplay against Kiaya. But like you said, Kiaya is so good at Aatrox. It's possible even with the gank pressure against this guy that it's just not going to matter. And I kind of prefer the fact that Guri says, hey, let's look towards bottom lane. Let's look towards the bottom side river. Let's go hunting and try to get some pressure on a bot side on a timer that maybe isn't quite as standard as you'd expect. Or even go put pressure onto Levi, because I don't know that Levi with his abilities and before level 3 is going to be able to handle the auto-attacking that Guri's going to bring to the table here.
Yeah, he sees him coming with the tip of the trail, but Guri just floating forward, puts up the spell shield, doesn't manage to actually spell shield anything though. Levi winning this trade at the moment. Slater moving up, Blazers moving down, but the health bars are heavily in favor of GAM. It's a flash away from Guri. In they go, and Guri, this is a shocker.
Notice, the thing I said about this is prior
to... Whoa! What have you just done?
Okay. I mean, they're out.
But they burn flashes. This is shocking.
Everything. Okay. All right. Not quite enough damage to trade back. Yeah, that is astonishing from the Saigon Buffalo bot lane. Like that's disastrous right there, being able to lose every single one of your summoner spells for exactly nothing, knowing that there was a wraparound coming from the side of GAM. Again, this whole premise of the invade for Guri is like, hey, if he's level 3, you probably don't win. And then he's level 3, and he goes in anyway, and he doesn't have pressure in bot or in mid to move freely, right? Like, if Blazes has a pure push in mid lane, this is different because then Kadi can't step up, and then they can 2v2 against Slater. In this case, the bottom lane's pushed, and Slater can step off the wave faster, and then they get a massive wraparound, and it's like, guys, what are we doing? Again, this is some of the stuff that Guri still makes his mistakes. He's not a flawless jungler. He's not fully developed yet. And things like this are the read that you need to be able to make. You just gotta leave. Like, give up the camp, give up the tempo, and just give it back to Levi. Let him do something on the rel. Instead, just forcing that play.
And now with no flashes means that's going to be another kill for Slater. Shogun knows he's dead, so he's just going to try and trade one back. He can't even do that. With the CC coming in, Levi should be getting himself a kill. Just careful there, Slater. Don't want to get burned. Levi will get it. This goes from bad to worse. And I just want to make one last comment on the Guri play. Yeah. Because I don't want to harp on the mechanics, but I really do think you're going to play Nocturne. You're going to play Nocturne 2 games in a row, and you don't realize that up against a rel, you should save your spell shield for the ridiculously telegraphed knock-up. I think that's kind of bad. But we'll move off it at the moment, as he is up on this top side.
He is maybe trying to find something. And this has been a big kind of laning phase for Coded so far. He's up 16 minions, and they're actually even in terms of where they're at right now, which means he's just up a flat 2.5, 3 waves at the moment over top of Kiaya. And if this wave ends up getting kind of pushed off,
that's
because
6.
Nocturne has access up there, could be big. Yeah, I mean, Coded's doing great. Like, that's exactly what you want to see. Like, that's great to see that Coded is winning the laning phase. I talked about this. Like, the Rumble should be winning the laning phase, and it's clear that that is the case. Like, Coded is good enough to be able to take advantage of this. But okay, this is what happened in the previous. You can't blame him for that one. Like no. he was pixels off of catching Slater, and that's an instant kill, probably a double kill if they end up getting it.
The issue comes is not so much that play is bad. That play is good. Imagine if he had a flash.
Yeah, but yeah, if he had a flash and if he had everything else, like I mean, in fairness, maybe if they have the flashes, there's never the trading that comes through from Slater and Lulu to actually get this into the same situation. But we're not going to split hairs here. If he has flash, almost certainly, even with the heal, you end up winning that situation out. And Shogun probably walks away with a double kill. Like that's easily worthwhile a trade. But now they both died. They're down their summoner spells. They're losing to the Zeri Lulu, which is already a hard enough laning phase to deal with from Slay and Shogun. And now you have no bot lane presence. And again, now you're just worried about your top and your mid. Mid lane's pretty even, top lane's pretty advantageous here for Saigon Buffalo. So Guri has to be smart enough to not play towards bottom line unless you're really bailing them out. If you get them a decent kind of steady laning state, then go back to top lane, but you cannot just ignore top and mid now. Like, you have to go make plays where your gold is going to be.
Yeah, and I will say, Shogun's done a decent job keeping himself relevant in the CS. He's about 10 CS ahead. Of course, that doesn't equalize 2 kills, but it at least keeps him relevant. But I completely agree. You need to be finding a dive topside. You have Nocturne ult soon. Of course, he's not going to do it before the Paranoia. With that Rumble ult, I'm heading straight top and I'm killing Kiaya.
I think I agree with that wholeheartedly. Especially with like plates being ripped down so easily from the side of from Coded. I mean, he's up 25 minions outright right now. Like, that's not even a comparison. It's not like there's a stacked wave that's going to be collected by Kiaya. It's just a flat 25 minions. He has the pen boots. Like, you're feeling good. The other thing is that, again, Blazes is also very even in gold. The first item spike is much stronger for Blazes on this Jace. 2 items is really good when you get the Monomune and you also have like your Duskblade together. Jace is going to have damage that basically matches what Kadi is going to be able to do. So if you are Guri, I want to see them play around topside. I think that Shogun and Slay are defensive enough to be able to play and not give any additional advantage over to Slater and Plet. And if they don't get Rift Herald, you can't really force on bot tower. That gives you an opening to play towards this top side of the map if you're Guri, and I want to see him lean into it. So far, it's just been a couple of camps here and there. This is your opportunity right now. As this wave comes in, Kiaya might get a little bit antsy. You might hit level 6, and yep, that's what we were looking for. And now you want to play onto Kiaya.
Yeah, he's going to go over the wall. Now the E's burned. You can't do this until that's back up. It's not a super long cooldown.
You have a minion wave.
Yeah, I think they're just going to move to the Herald because now Levi's here. I think they missed their window.
Yeah, okay, but Blazes. Now they've telegraphed everything. He's fine, yeah. And thankfully, the laser goes behind the tower, didn't end up hitting him in any capacity. And he actually is staying, which might be a mistake. But he has to be here because he's terrified that this team fight's just going to go poorly.
Yeah, and with the Herald now down to 1,500, good equalizer, but the Herald is stolen away. Kiaya burning down, but Guri's already dead. Levi trying to waddle away on this Rel. They've already secured the eye. GAM get everything.
They do. They do have to burn multiple flashes to get out from this situation, which is one thing that could be taken advantage of. But that felt so disconnected from Saigon Buffalo. If you saw, Slay got this dirty knockup against Kadi. There's no way Kadi casts a spell. Blazes just insta-executes Kadi if that's the case. And then they get a wraparound from the top side, which means they have direct access into the jungle where GAM has to escape to once they flash back over top of the Baron Pit wall here. Really, I think, like, if Blazes follows up on that, if he and Slay are on the same page right there, they end up pulling a kill and probably get a bit of a wraparound on all the members that are stuck inside the pit and put a lot more pressure onto the members of GAM who decided to go for that Rift Herald steal, which worked out for them. Fortunately, weren't there. Like, the communication, whatever it was, just kind of broke down, and it meant that Blazes didn't follow up on this big knockup from Slay, didn't get the kill against Kadi, and that meant they couldn't take that space in the river, which might have been the determining factor between GAM getting that Rift Herald and walking out with no deaths, and maybe losing a team fight, maybe losing the Rift Herald altogether from the pressure that mounts. It's little stuff like that that really can make a massive difference in a game like this, in a series like this especially.
100%, and I mean, I think Kiaya, obviously things look bad. He's 30 CS down. Coded is having a fantastic lane. But I think Kiaya's understood his role in this game. As soon as things went poorly in the bottom side, he just went, oh, I just need to not die. I just need to not die. It doesn't matter. Okay, Coded 30 CS up, whatever. I have a 3-0 Zeri. Why would I ever care?
No. I wouldn't. And actually, if Kiaya ever gets to the point where he gets this Duskblade online, if he decides to go for the Duskblade, which would be awesome, it means that he can go really, really kind of aggressive into team fights and find one kill and just set up for this massive chain against anybody that decides to go. That was a spicy meatball there for a second, is what I was going to say. Didn't quite get to the accent, unfortunately, because Clockwork's not here and he would have attacked me in an alleyway. But it was actually really close. Slay came really close to being able to punish Paulette, but they have to play defensively again on the side of Saigon because they're the ones that are losing, unfortunately, a lot of these situations.
Yeah, 100%. Look at the itemization difference. It's a static Shiv versus Boots 2 Longsword. SGB's bot lane just doesn't exist. Levi shows his face, means they can't step up. They're going to push another wave into the tower. More and more pressure. Guri is wandering down, has the paranoia, but surely not. Slay. Unlucky there. In goes the Rel. The lights are turned off. Can they lock down this Zeri before they get a kill? No, they cannot. Guri taking so much damage. Shogun's already out of the fight. They're just walking under the tower. Blazes has arrived. Can he be the saving grace? No, he misses the accelerated shock blast. Gets stunned up by a lovely scatter the week from Kati. Paulette is low, but there's no threat onto him. Over the wall goes Slater, and rat-a-tat-tat, Zeri will get a 6th kill.
And finally, one response, which is Slay hunting down Paulette in the back of their own jungle, but honestly just does not matter.
No.
I said this earlier. Guri, you gotta go topside. Like, let them play defensive. Give up the tower. I don't care. Go play to your Rumble. Go play to your Jace. And he refuses. He plays defensively around Shogun and around Slay. And I don't know if it's a call. I don't know if they're making this decision. This also got fumbled. Look at this. He first looked almost at hey, should I go after the Rel? And then he kind of turns and he goes for the fear against this Slater Zeri, and he just doesn't get anything because he's so slow to the play. He just doesn't actually find what he needs to be able to do. And then right here, obviously, it was really bad for Blaze. He tries to find a flash, can't get away from the stun from Kadi. Again, he doesn't have the mid lane pressure that he had in game number 1, so he doesn't have the push to be able to arrive here without follow from Kadi. And as a result, he ends up getting caught in the background. He ends up getting stunned up. And again, now the game's probably just doomed. Bot lane is basically dead in the water. They're going to be able to grab most of, if not all of bot tower together. They ended up shifting into mid lane for some reason, but I really thought they could have just closed out the tower if they wanted to.
Yeah, I really feel this Nocturne is just not it. It's looked really bad both games so far. Guri just doesn't seem comfortable on it. It's also not... Nocturne is not broken. You do not need to play Nocturne. You do not need to second pick Nocturne. I don't understand this.
It might be a bit of a Scrimbucks thing where it's like they know that Levi's been playing it a bunch or something like that. But at this point, the games have gone poorly enough that it's just we're not going to.
And, I mean, this is just going to be the 7th and possibly 8th kill for this Zeri as Slater's moving forward. No, won't go under the tower, as there is a collapse coming. This is a lot of members of SGB, but they don't have the big ultimates that they need. Levi turning it around. Look at the damage onto Slay. Good rocket rain there by Coded. Levi going down. Blazers managed to pick that one up, but Slater evacuating is able to get some distance, whip out a laser. In the end, just a 1-for-1.
I'm sorry, like, every time Coded's been on the screen, he's literally goated in this series.
Yeah,
like I do not know why he's not done. He's like they haven't done anything. He's gonna get assassinated as we cast a curse.
Nope, he's fine.
No, he's goated. He's goated. Like that's just what's gonna happen. So why are they not playing to this guy? Like legitimately, like it's so shocking. He got better over the split. He looked a lot better coming into playoffs in terms of his form. And he literally is up 25 CS over Kiaya. And they refuse to give him resources. Instead, they keep going bot lane. Look at this. He's up 2 levels. Slater's up a whole item on Shogun right now. Even with red right, you just can't do anything. I mean, Guri basically dies on his way in against Slater. Like, it just doesn't matter. And then, who is it that saves the day? Look at this. Goated, coming in clutch, has a dirty equalizer right here to cut off so much of the space that they've got. Amazing to shut out Slater.
Fantastic.
Amazing to shut out Plant. Like, it's so good. And they start playing around it. Like, I don't understand it, Carrix.
I don't understand it either, Rebel. It just doesn't make sense. They picked this Rumble. I think it was a really good pick, but they just refused to play around it. Now, Kiaya has mostly closed the lead. In fact, Kiaya might be ahead in gold now, given that he's gotten the tower. It's just wasted, this pick, and I fear that they're going to take the wrong read from this and say, oh, we aren't going to pick the Rumble again. It didn't work.
And I get the idea also that this Nocturne plays more like a carry champion for Guri, which is what he's accustomed to, but also can still engage, but it's not worked. And you need to make the decision. Are you playing around Guri against Levi in the jungle, like what happened in game number 1 where you've got this Ivern? Or are you playing to Guri being a supporting member of the cast with like Sejuani and some of these other picks, and are you taking that route? Because that just needs to be determined here, because Guri cannot play this half and half role again on the Nocturne, because it's not worked. Not one time has this looked like a pick that is warranted being inside of the series. And so, Saigon Buffalo they have to like answer, like they really do, to a lot of the sins that they've
Coded once again, setting up a play that works. This man is goated. Play around him in game 4.
It took them 15 minutes to figure out, hey, let's try to make a play around this guy, and finally they get the kill. It's too little too late. They're not going to be able to win the game off of this one. But, like, maybe they have some building blocks for later in the game, right? Like, maybe they have a possibility of doing that. I don't think, like, this game wasn't terrible for Blazes. It wasn't terrible. It was great for Coded so far. Bot lane had some rough play of it. I think a large part of that was like this jungle difference that's been going on between the two members. Not to say it's purely Guri's fault. Obviously, Shogun and Slay overstayed on that bot side when they got wrapped around on. They played too aggressively afterwards when they knew the reinforce could come in from Guri as well. Like, they had their own problems. They limit tested a little bit too much in this one. But, like, Coded's a weapon, and like he's doing better against Kiaya than I think anybody would have expected so far in the series. And so use that, like, play to the adaptation, play to the to and fro of the series and who's playing well on the day. Because this is somebody that might legitimately get you another game win and put you in territory to take a win against the number 1 team in the VCS.
It really could, and they go again. Paulette flashing away, has to use his ultimate as well. Cardi arriving. Guri is here, but doesn't have the ult. Slay in some trouble, does just break that tether from Aatrox. Shogun could be in trouble, but will get out of Levi's range. He's okay. Up on the top side, a lot of damage into Blazers. Can they turn this around? Equalizer is a few seconds away. They don't want to fight without that. Can they get this collapse? It's going to be really close. Coded getting yanked in. He's going to get taken down. Does drop an equalizer, but it's not perfect. And now here comes Slater, and he's going to blast them all away. Gets a double kill. Wants to keep going. I don't think he'll catch the last 2, but look how confident he is. He knows that Guri and Slay are not threats. He'll get them. That is some Zeri gaming. It's a 7k gold lead, and we're going to game 4.
Almost certainly. Like, Slater is just too strong in this one, and it's well deserved as well. It's not all on Slater's pure unadulterated mechanical prowess. Like, the combination of he and Paulette playing against Shogun and Slay, or playing a bit aggressively, Guri being able to just like continue to throw some additional pressure to bot side, has led to them constantly getting attempts. Coded, Is he actually going to catch somebody? I don't think he's going to have a chance. Yeah, he didn't. Not quite. The attempt is admirable, but again, even if you get that perfect play and that perfect shutdown, it just doesn't matter in this game. You're down so much material. It's 10k at 18 minutes. You're down 2 dragons. A third dragon's on the way after this redeploy comes out from the side of GAM, and that's an Infernal Soul that's on the brink of being taken at like 24 minutes into this game. That is not the play. Like you just, again, you're doubling back for game number 3, and you're hoping that this time you can actually make something happen.
Yeah, Levi with a lovely engage here as well. Followed up Slater, absolutely no fear. Imagine if Guri had a couple of kills. Maybe they kill Slater there, but this Nocturne, I mean, Nightmare is an exaggeration of what is. Maybe he's SGB fans' Nightmare right now.
Something like that, yeah. It's not looking great at least. Okay, they can't even extend because there's so many members behind them. Like, what are you supposed to do? And it also sucks because this is the first time that Saigon Buffalo was like, hey, they picked a mage, let's pick Jace, and let's just match Kadi. And then they Blazes just doesn't get to play the game. Like, it's just so fast around him. Like, the entire team is just, like, falling to pieces. He even got first step a couple of times. I think he's up on CS over top of Kadi right now. He's playing an okay game. It's too fast. Like, he cannot catch up to the pace of everybody else around him. Because of how much gold that's been given up to both the bot lane and some of the other places.
Another engage coming in. This one's a really good start. Another incredible equalizer from Coded. Fantastic stuff. And SGB will get to. Slater wants to turn it around though with the ultimate. Look at that damage coming in. Good knock up though. In they come. They burn him down. Coded picks up the kill. In the end, it's 3 for 3, but it's a big shutdown for this Rumble.
It is. It's a massive shutdown in the midst of everything, which is, it is big. Ends up closing the gold gap about 2k. It's actually closer to about 500 to 1,000, I think is where it was right before the fight started. But man, Saigon Buffalo's fighting back better than I would have thought them able to. I don't think GAM is quite expecting or giving respect to the amount of damage that the Rumble Jace can do from a distance, to the amount that even Shogun can do at this point, despite being down in terms of itemization. Right there, Slater, I think, got a little bit antsy. You can see him in the fight. This is the engagement. I love the equalizer. He's able to push out Slater from the rest of this one, keeps him away from the fight long enough for them to kind of take a win. Which is when Slater makes the aggressive call. And yes, he gets Blazes. Yes, he gets a lot of damage onto multiple members. But Slay sneaking him in the middle of everything. The only reason this goes okay for the side of GAM is because Kadi bails out the rest of the play off the back of his TP. And again, it's Kadi kind of climbing up spades here for GAM. And if it weren't for him, that fight probably would have been disastrous.
100%. As you can see, some of the pieces of this SGB comp, this SGB team are working. Coded, we've sung his praises enough. I think Blazers looks okay when he's actually allowed to deal a bit of damage. And Slay on this Rakan is playing well. Guri chunked out again, yoinked in, and he's just going to die. That is a shocker.
Okay. That should probably wrap things up as well. Because if that gets you to Baron, right? That Baron, at absolute minimum, lets you redeploy quickly onto the map and push mid and bot wave so that you can grab the next dragon and you get Infernal Soul. This is a contest maybe to come out from the side of Saigon Buffalo because they have to try to stop it. But ultimately, I think it's a fruitless endeavor. Yeah,
I mean, look, you may as well try and get something here. You know, there's no point losing slowly. You may as well try and win and lose quickly. Who cares? As GAM are going to force down a fair bit of damage being dealt. Does mean that maybe SGB could try something. Scatter the weak down. Slater rushing in. The laser is going to hit Coded. They need to run as fast as they can. It's going to be so hard. They don't even have an equalizer. Bang! Oh, there is the Zeri ult doing so much damage. Levi just standing on the tower. He doesn't even care. Guri gets vaporized. And game 4 can't come soon enough. It looks like it.
I feel like I haven't seen it yet, because obviously it was the static shiv, and I remember the AP Zeri being just an absolute bomb, because that ultimate did so much damage. It was like a W ultimate auto attack, and that was all that was necessary to just blow up 2 full members. And it's like, I don't think that's AD Zeri. I'm pretty sure that's AP Zeri.
I mean, it might be AD Zeri, given that he's, I think, 13-1.
That's also true. That's also very, very true. Like, it doesn't really matter what he built. He probably just has more than enough damage to do anything. At least this is the close of the game. Like you said, they went out, trying to get a tower, trying to get something, poking some damage away, but it just wasn't enough by any standard.
Coded coming in, equalizer. Actually, a really good start to this fight. They're just a little bit too far behind. That flame just about catching on the card. No, he gets away. And GAM, despite looking so dodgy there for a moment, they are all going to survive. Oh, Blazers, TP's in, but he just gets absolutely pooped on! Oh no, it's a disaster. Slater moving in, taking a lot of damage. Over the wall goes Slay, getting a big knockup. But Slater's still alive. He takes out Alanguri. He'll finally get him. Conan desperately trying to burninate the countryside. Shogun now moving forward will get Cardi. And GAM actually lose 4.
They do. It was already a really, really terrible fight for GAM, and the fact that they almost dug out some kind of advantage by getting Blazes and Slay in the midst of everything was almost miraculous. But they do fall, and that actually might cost them a dragon, which is going to slow down the pacing of the game a little bit more. I know they have bottom inhibitor. I know they have a Nexus Tower down. But again, they're not going to be able to push in crazily. It started great. Like you said, the damage they dealt with the Equalizer combined with this dive coming in from the Nocturne actually did really well, and they could never really feel confident about turning. I think Blazes overplayed his hand a touch here. If he clutches with a kill against Paulette and then kills Kiaya with a jump in on the hammer, I think it's a little bit better because they weren't expecting.
Hang on a second. They steal the dragon. Shogun gets another kill.
Okay.
I don't think it changes anything, but
I want to say that, but they've cut the Goldie down 4,000 gold in the last 1 minute. So like they are keeping themselves at the possibility of turning this game around. Will they turn the game around? Almost certainly not. But it's the possibility is not gone, right? You always can create in D&D against any monster an insta hit, and this is the same thing. It's like, okay, it's a 5% chance, but like it's a 5% chance, right?
Yeah, I mean, look, sometimes you just got to stand next to the big dragon and say, fellas, I'm really good at rolling dice.
Fellas. Anyway, you're right. I mean, sometimes luck is all you need, and like in situations like this, it's not impossible to throw games. We've seen GAM. Actually, GAM is probably the worst case of people who throw in situations. They're usually the ones that overcome situations like this. Yeah, people throw against GAM like this before, so it's not impossible. Saigon Buffalo also does this to them in playoffs so often, where it looks like they're down a bunch of gold. Usually they're up in kills in this circumstance, but they have a bunch. Biggest thing here, GAM's number one threat by far is Slater. If Slater's removed from a fight, they still have Kadi, they still have a bit of damage at Kiaya, but it's nowhere near what they have when there is a Slater around. So if Slater gets removed, that's where the chance really is held here from the side of Saigon Buffalo.
And I've got to say, Slay has been playing these team fights excellently. This Rakana's been a real threat as they come in once again. I'm waiting for that equalizer. There it is. It's lovely again. Look at the damage onto Kati. They move over onto Kiaya, just isolate him, take him down. SGB are making it work.
They are. The one thing I'm missing right now is I gotta see a Rylai's come out from Coded, because Coded doesn't have one right now, and the number of times he's landed an equalizer on top of somebody and they've walked off of it, I feel like if he had a Rylai's, like he would basically insta-kill, like right there, Kadi, like without flash, probably dies with a Rylai's on him. Like there's no way he walks out of that without getting eviscerated by a Blaze's shot glass on the back end. Like it just... like situation like that, I'm hoping that he gets enough gold to actually show it, because I very, very reasonably think when a Rylai's comes through, these equalizers are going to be twice as deadly. And given the fact that slowly Saigon Buffalo's picking up kills, I mean, again, I don't think they're anywhere near winning this game, but if they can get 3-4 items on even one or two members, the fight back's going to be all that much more fearsome for GAM, and it might buy them enough time. Next Dragon's another big one. 2 minutes, we have the next Dragon in the Infernal Soul again for GAM. If they stop that one, that's when I'm going to start sweating a little bit.
And the thing is that Slater doesn't get much further ahead. You can sort of only catch up to him at this point. He's full build, aside from that stopwatch, but he's not selling the stopwatch.
True. And he's going to go into Guardian Angel almost certainly, which is going to make fights a lot harder because you have to kill him twice. But honestly, if you kill Slater once, the possibility that you haven't won the fight around it is very unlikely, unless Slater jumps really far forward in a fight and they bring him down, and then you have the follow-up from Kadi and Kiai afterwards, and like Levi, and they kind of play around Slater as like a first in and then like a bait more than anything else. But, like you said, with the Guardian Angel, the second life is all you're really getting. You're not getting like a ridiculous amount more damage. So you're right, 1-2 items onto Shogun, and he's going to catch the damage that Slater's going to be doing. Like you're going to be catching him probably within the next item or so, within a reasonable distance. And so again, GAM has kind of gotten to the edge of their damage, at least their main carry. There's quite a bit more on Kadi when you get the Rabadons, but like it's not possible. And look at Slay, man. Look at where he's at. Like what a
menace. But he needs to be closer, because there goes Shogun. They're bearing down on Blazes as well. I mean, Slay, I respect the hustle, buddy, but that was a bit much of a flank. I feel like we started to believe, and maybe we're going to get punished. As in comes the engage. Lovely stuff there. They can't get anything done. The equalizer has already been used. Guri goes gold, but he can't even make it back to the fountain. And GAM will break the Christmas miracle, and they will take game number 3 and move to match point.
Listen, I mean,
we had to believe. We had to.
You gotta believe. And think about it, like, if they go back to Baron, and Slay gets the absolute most filthy flank of all recorded human history on Rakan, and they get a big team fight win around Baron, and they get the Dragon, the game's probably even at that point. Yeah. It just comes down to a team fight, it just comes down to something. So, like, the respect is given because the idea is, like, they have a way back in that is surprising. They were not ready for GAM to just press the pedal down to the gas and say, hey, we're going to fight right now. And they found Shogun. I don't even know how they found Shogun out that deep in the laning phase, but, like, that's fine. That was at least fight back from Saigon Buffalo I can respect. They still need to fix the comp. They still need to fix the draft issues. But they're on the way there. Their competitiveness is going crazy today, and that's really what you need to see.
100%. And I really think if you don't have Guri making that massive mistake in the early game, if he's not on this Nocturne that's just frankly not working, he's just playing something a bit more standard, a bit more in his wheelhouse, I think you play this game a hell of a lot closer. I think there's a good chance we go to a game 5 here, Rebel. And given that we were predicting solid GAM 3-0, that's a really big call.
It is, yeah. I wonder how this game actually plays out if that wraparound on bot lane never happens as a result of the Nocturne invade. Like, if you end up playing a standard Nocturne and, like, clearing through bot, and there's no wraparound from the other side, and you don't burn all those summoner spells, I really am curious how this game would have turned out. Like, it could have been a world of difference here. So, yeah, I'm excited for game number 4, because, again, Saigon Buffalo, their competitiveness is up today. GAM is starting to kind of ramp up. They're looking better as they're getting through this series. They've obviously won the last 2 in a row, so they're feeling good walking into game number 4. But they have their own issues that they got to solve a little bit. So I'm looking to both teams to try to improve for game 4 here.
And I'm just going to say one thing before we go to a break. Coded, he's still goated. Play around him. And with that, we'll be back in about 5-10 minutes. Don't go anywhere. This is VCS English. welcome back, everybody. It's game number 4. GAM currently leading 2-1 over SGB, and there has been a change. Blazers is out. Froggy's in.
Yeah, so as we were talking about in the previous game, I think given the fact that there are threats on Guri and Coded has arisen as an additional threat in the top side of the map, they need more map support, and Blazes is not really the map to support type player. He's not going to be doing that type of thing. We were talking about maybe roaming top, roaming to bot lane, kind of just like tanking pressure. Game 1, it worked out because he had a superior laning phase. He hasn't really been beating Kadi outright in the one-on-one, so they grab up Froggy. They say, okay, Froggy, do your thing. Let's get you on the OG Galio or like the Vex, something like that, but really and truly something that can support the remainder of the map likely is the idea here, so they can play the more aggressive picks for Coded, for Guri in those positions alongside supporting the bottom side of the map. So it is Saigon Buffalo's attempt at a bit of a tech swap here in the midst of the series.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think Blazers was the issue. I don't think anyone really thinks Blazers was the issue, but it is the only thing you can change. Maybe they just think they need a bit of a fresh face. Now, we do have a little bit till drafts. We do have a chance to talk. Now that Froggy is in, what do we want to see? I really want them to see them play around Coded. I want him to get his Jax or a Renekton or something. You've been banning the Renekton on blue side. Leave it up and first pick it.
Well, at absolute minimum, yeah. I want to see them give some comfort over to Coded and then the bot lane, get them into like matchups that they're really enjoying, and then find your mid-jungle combination that will shove off Levi and Kadi. Game number 1, the Ivern did such a good job against the Kazakhs, but also the Tristana was outright beating the Syndra at the beginning of the game. If you get that same level of mid-jungle dominance, picking anything you want, whether it's the Rumble, whether it's the Jax, whatever it is topside, and the same thing on bot side where you kind of just grab anything you want, you can play towards those two side lanes as interchangeably as you please. I don't think it's a strategy we were anticipating because I wasn't expecting Coded to be playing as well today as he is, and I don't think even Saigon Buffalo necessarily was expecting that either. But now they're seeing that as a potential avenue for a big upset victory against GAM. And being able to beat them here gives them such an easier path to finals, such an easier path to try to make qualification for that world tournament, that they're willing to make this attempt happen. And again, at absolute worst, what they find out is that it does not work, and then they can work around strategies like, hey, how does Froggy interact with this team, in the next round if they go into the bottom side of the bracket? If he ends up winning this game and they end up winning, losing, whatever it might be, they get more of a kind of free idea of how Froggy plays in this squad and how they could use he and Blazes interchangeably through the rest of the qualification tournament. And I don't think it's bad experimentation. I don't know that it's the exact right time, but there isn't probably a better time for Saigon Buffalo since they're not quite on death's door yet inside of this tournament.
Yeah, I completely agree. You're not necessarily, realistically, if you're Saigon Buffalo, I don't think you're expecting to win this series. The fact that you have managed to pick up a game. Now, I will say, I don't think they've played it close in the 2 losses, to be completely honest. I think both losses have been pretty convincing for GAM. Outside of a couple of, I think Coded played really well last game, but the rest of the map fell apart. So I don't necessarily think they're playing it super close, but you've done pretty well. You've exceeded expectations. I agree with you. You may as well get some info. You go down to the lower bracket where you're estimating Team Secret is who you're going to be up against. And then maybe eventually you get another run at GAM. But hopefully we are heading into draft. And Rebel, what do we want to see out of GAM? Because we've talked a lot about SGB, but what would you like to see GAM pick up to close this series out?
It would be nice if we didn't see GAM kind of default to the same draft again. It would be nice to see them a little bit different. In the last game, it was a little bit different, more unique than what the Xayah was. I think that Xayah composition left a bad taste in my mouth because it feels like something that anybody would be able to scout against GAM with just a couple of games. It's like, okay, don't let them have Xayah Rakan, don't let them have Wukong. That feels like stuff that's going to get banned instantly, right? But for GAM to now have this Lulu Zeri combination, even this late in the season when it's not really the same level of prevalence that it was previously, the fact that Slater can kind of pilot that at such a high level is really, really cool. So to me, I also want to see them have Kadi play something more aggressive. If Froggy is going... Okay, don't play with me.
I cannot believe they've just locked the Nocturne 3 games.
Yeah, I feel...
I don't get it.
Oh, now... We might be in for a treat. This could be a flex Nocturne mid lane if you end up in the wrong matchup. Because it's got the wave clear and it's got the sustain to play up against a lot of mages. And it would allow for Guri to have his Talia, because his Talia is what he made his name on as a rookie. Is like the only thing he was really shining on was his Talia play. The only difference here is that, again, Froggy's also played Talia a couple of times this season, even during some of the off time, so there is that to consider as well. But I could legitimately see a world where they said, hey, Froggy, you've got a weird champion pool, right? You played Kalista mid lane for a long time. You can play Nocturne mid lane without too much of a problem, especially if they're not expecting it. Now, I can't imagine that GAM is going to get surprised by something like this, but I could very much see if they overlook it very shortly in the draft, them not being ready. So if it's another Victor, another Syndra, or something basic in the mid lane, I would not be shocked to see them try a flex here to see if they can actually catch GAM off guard with a sucker punch.
I don't know. I think that might be huffing some hopium. I would love to see it, don't get me wrong, but I feel like this is just 3 games in a row of Guri Nocturne, and I don't get it. I fundamentally do not understand why they put so much priority on this champion. They're banning out top laners. I think you had a chance to ban out some mid laners. They banned the Ori?
Yeah, I mean,
it's good with Wukong, like, but he's just going to play Syndra, right?
I mean, he has Syndra, he has Victor, he has any mage he really wants right here, and you don't really want to pick top lane, so you kind of just have to blind pick a mage here, if you're Kadi. Now, Jace is available if you want Jace. You could flex that between both roles. That feels like a very acceptable play. Renekton is available if you want to... Renekton's not... He got banned. My bad. So, yeah, my go-to would be Jace here and just say, okay, we're going to take Jace and we're going to flex it to whichever lane it's better, and you just have additional poke to throw into everything else. But assumably, the way the rest of the drafts have gone, it's just going to be a mage. And there we go. We get Kadi's version of the LeBlanc, which probably will end up being superior to what we saw in game number 1 of Blazing. Or game number 2 of Blazing.
Oh, that's a Zyra. We don't know what it's paired with, but that's a Zyra.
Wait, okay. Now I'm getting it a little bit.
We have Zyra blank.
Okay, alright. There we go. Alright, they're putting more eggs into the Slay basket, which I think is the right play. I kind of like this. They go back to tank v tank top lane, which, again, it sucks that Coded's not getting to play, but they go roaming mid lane, they go aggressive to bottom attack play, and they have Zyra, which is going to kill me to have to say over the course of the game. I am not looking forward to having to say that either.
Yeah, it's going to be great as a play-by-play.
Yeah, just call it the pizza bot lane, because there's 2 Z's, and it sounds sort of like, so it's the pizza bot lane. And it's... they're just playing to the fact that Slay is this aggressive player. He has the ability to use resources effectively in the support role. They really want to just dive bot lane. Like, that's what they want to do. They have decided that that's the play. Like,
low-key, Zyra is sick here.
Zyra's awesome.
Like, don't get me wrong, I love Zyra. I play a lot of Zyra jungle. But, like, Zyra jungle is so much fun.
It's fine, the plants are nuts, yeah.
But, like, in all seriousness, like, look at this team. Wukong, when he engages, he dashes in a straight line. You can't dodge the E. LeBlanc, when you W forward, you go in a straight line. You can't dodge the E. I think Zyra is just low-key sick here.
Yeah, I think they were ready for something like this. I think their wholest intention in this draft was to really try to play towards the bot lane. Whether or not that means they were planning the Zyra, or whether that means that, this is one of those circumstances where a player says, we didn't really scrim with it, we just saw an option for it and I wanted to grab it. And to me, that feels like something Slay would go for. In fact, actually, they kind of showed his face on screen when the champion got locked in. I'm getting the impression that maybe this is not something they run consistently, and that he and Shogun are just feeling themselves right now, and they're saying, we're going to be confident. They go back to what worked for them in the bot lane with Shogun on the Xayah, and that was certainly his best game by a significant margin. Now they get this power combination on the bottom side and a lot of gameplay towards it. It would not shock me to see this team really, really dominate this bottom side of the map in this one, which is a bit of a far cry. Again, our expectation was that Coded was going to get a little bit more. Maybe Guri gets a little bit of something to work with. They go back to Nocturne. They play the Talia. They're playing the bot side, and they are not there. There's no nuance to this draft whatsoever. You know exactly what Saigon's plan is here.
Yeah, oh, hang on. We come into an immediate fight. See, Slay already getting value from the E. Zeri can't do much either. Froggy coming down. He's only got the Q. That's a summoner already burned. Cardi gonna come reinforce. They flash forward, and it's first blood for the Zyra. I told you, Rebel. It's sick. Let this man cook.
Yes. Okay, I'm about this all over the place, especially like the Guardian Zyra.
I
It's
love
something
this.
that I run all the time because it's so fun to play and it's got such good defense. You like have the power of a mage and also the defense of an enchanter. You're not quite either, but it fits so well in between the two. You can run Imperial Mandate as like an item on this champion and it goes stupid. Like there's so many good things about it that you can do as a half enchanter Zyra that just make you such a menace to deal with in the laning phase. This is the response you're looking for, right? They brought out the Zeri Lulu and they said, hey, like, what do you got, Slay? And Slay says, I'm going to bring out Zyra and I'm going to bully the opposing laning phase. And now it's like, okay, you have ways to stop Ornn. You are already going through all of the ways that this is like super disgusting. But even if you get a solid engagement with Levi or Kiaye, you pop the Zyra ultimate down, and it's hard to follow up with your Slater or Caudy or anybody. Like you just create dead zones so effectively. It's almost like an Orianna sitting in your composition as well with the ball, except it's like you just have to be careful of the champion. So like the further up Slay stands, the more space you take. And with this early first blood, feeling good about it already. Nocturne starting on top side, heading down to bot. You're going to have early push from this Talia as well. Just making sure to be pushing that Caudy while he doesn't have that static chip to be able to control the laning phase. And you're just going to see how much damage can be done.
Rebel, I'm actually like... The Zyra caught me off guard, but I'm just thinking... I don't know if you can play against it. I actually think it might be a checkmate.
It just might be. And again... Assuming that, like, what I saw on Slay's face is not just, like, random or they're just, like, laughing because they had this readily available, I'm taking a wild guess and saying they didn't scrim this. They don't scrim it. It's just Slay saying, I can play this champion. I'm good at this champion. I'm good at taking gold. Put me in, coach. Like, he wants the ball. He wants the pass. Like, he wants to do the damage here. And honestly, they're letting him, and I think I can respect that. Again, Coded willing to take a bit of a backseat even after a couple of good games because he knows his performance against Kiaye has been good enough that the tank v tank doesn't really matter. So them saying, hey, Froggy's in, we're not playing a mid, we're playing a bot exclusively. We're swapping out Blaze's carry potential for Slay's carry potential. Well, I'm just ready to see what it is that they're going to be able to do. I got to see what influence Froggy has over the game and how Gary gets down there. More importantly, like you said, how does GAM play around this? Because like they have to somehow get around this bot lane that's insanely powerful that we've been hyping up so far.
Because it's not just the Zyra as well. Like imagine a situation. There's a team fight. In goes GAM, because they've got a lot of dashes in. You just drop the Zyra ult under them and then the Talia chocolates. How do you get out? Levi a little bit caught, but in comes Slater. Guri maybe going a little bit over aggressive early on again, but gets healed. Look at the Slayer! Look at him go! Tags up Levi. He's got to get out of there. Paulette low. Guri trying to do his best here. Will go down, but it's immediately traded back onto Slater. Lovely stuff from Froggy to reel that LeBlanc in. 2 for 1 in the favour of SGB.
And that time, the biggest difference maker that happened is this is not the first time. This is like the third game in a row that Guri goes for this invade and gets caught out on it, which is unnecessary beyond belief. The one biggest difference, the Zyra and the Xayah get priority on bot lane and they get to show up first, and they are there for the support of their bot lane. Last game, the exact same... Okay, Slay's now just trolling a little bit. You're going to see the replay almost unnecessarily while the midst of a kill kind of being traded back and forth between the two. But notice, this exact play happened last game, and Slater was the only one there. Notice who all shows up. Shogun, Slayer already there. Froggy shows up about the same time as Caudy. Yes, he gets punished, but he gets the return kill as well. So it ends up just being the pure 2 for 1 here for Saigon Buffalo after the first blood. You're feeling great. How did they get another kill? Oh, they traded 1 more for 1 more, it looks like, because they were 3 and 1 before. Did Caudy die again?
It looks like it, because his TP's down and he's walking to lane. It looks like he got caught TPing. No, we need a replay.
Unbelievable. This is why we don't play replays. Okay, now we get a replay.
Yeah, so Slay did a bit of trolling.
Which I'm pretty sure he dies to Paulette right here. Or he dies to LeBlanc, who steps off the wave almost certainly. Froggy, yeah, I'm guessing that's what happened, is that Caudy goes for this kill right here against Slay.
And then Froggy just trades it back? Yeah, looks like it. Fantastic play from Froggy. Really, really clean.
I think Caudy was relying on Paulette, but Paulette has no mana. He's just like, I can't cast anything. I don't know what you want me to do here. So he's just kind of standing there as like a cheerleader more than anything else. And as a result, Froggy has now picked up, I think, 2 kills in this game or 3 kills in this game.
103.
He's a beast. Yeah, he's feeling great so far. And again, I'm not saying this is pure unadulterated Froggy, but the whole game plan is based around the fact that he's going to move basically no matter what. So the CS is a little lower than what it was in previous games, but it's not insanely low. And Froggy's picking up enough gold to make it worthwhile. I mean, Again, I don't know that Blazes being on Talia would have made this plays any different at all, but it doesn't matter because I think it's more of a game plan shift. That is just a...
And they just kill Slater! Zyra is sick! I am so on board with the Zaza lane. The Zaza lane is the best.
He just stood there, bro. He like stood in place while the root hit him, and Slater's like, "Oh, what do? I have no summoner spells.
I've never Slater's a zoomer. He's a young guy. He's probably pinging that champion. Like, what is this dog? Like, what is this?
Who's that champion, bro? Who's that 8 billion-year-old champion that shows up out of nowhere?
They're gonna get this dragon unless Levi can pull off a miracle. Cardi moving in. Froggy just puts the wall up. Lovely stuff. They secure the Hex drag.
Okay. Now, again, I'm super curious. You've got a ton of control with the Zyra. You probably aren't building full damage. Look, he's just auto play, and then he dashes into the wall. He didn't even try to walk at it. Like, if you're Slater, you're tilted as hell right there. Like, I don't know what to say. Yeah, I'm super curious what the build's going to be, because you can go for heavy damage. You can go into, like, Rylai's Leandry's type of thing. I also really like with Guardian going, like, Radiant Virtue. Like, Radiant Virtue is such a fun item on her, because, again, like you said, if you're playing this counter-engage strategy against a Wukong and against divers and things like that, you pop Radiant Virtue and your ultimate, and they can't do anything about it. There's, like, nothing they can do about it at all. Like, you're just healing so much. It's basically, like, equalized time between your ultimate and the Radiant Virtue. And with the Giant's Belt, I actually think that's what he's going for.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me. He flashes forward, lands the damage onto Slater. Levi's here, and it could turn this around. Good ult there from Shogun. Should be able to get them both out.
Yeah, I mean, they're going to walk away, thankfully, but, like, again, compared to what we saw in previous games where this bot lane has just kind of gotten bullied after enough ganks have come through, given that they have the very, very heavy early game like advantage, I mean, it's busting open the map for everybody. Again, top lane is basically completely even. Guri he died once, but at minimum his influence on the map was felt because it allowed for Froggy to roam, and that means that bot lane's winning. So it doesn't really matter what's happening in the top two positions. Froggy's got an advantage. He's ahead on the in terms of the power curve to try to catch up to the static shift, and then Shogun and Slayer are doing great, which is entirely what Saigon Buffalo wanted. Now, if you're GAM, you have to figure out what to do, because it's like, okay, we can't really rely on Ornn to do a bunch of damage. The Wukong isn't super ahead in this game, and it's not the easiest one-to-one matchup up against Guri in any capacity. Do we go ganking bot lane to try to shut them down, try to pull some additional gold, or do we just try to play a more even game, try to get a good team fight as we go on, and hope that the Zyra is not just going to absolutely mess us up?
I don't think you can go bot, because ignoring the fact that like walking into a 3-1 Zyra is scary, what tool do you have? Like, that doesn't just get completely turned off by the Zyra E.
It's going to be difficult one way or another. And especially because, like, again, you're trying to figure it out. Like, if you play a more defensive style and she builds Rylai's, she just slows you down and then they get to engage. Like you get to play, like, feather positioning and you get to play rock positioning with Froggy and Shogun, and you can't even engage after that because you got Guri to turn off the lights. If you go Radiant Virtue, when you force, you just lose because you get all this healing that comes through from the Zyra. If you go Demonic, you're just a damage dealer who just kills everybody anyway. Like, there's so many options here that you can go for. And at least, like, if you're GAM, like, you're trying to figure out the solution to this because Slater's not strong enough right now. Only just now is Kadi starting to get the wave clear capability of being able to push against Froggy, but it's probably not going to be for more than a couple of minutes that he's going to have all this preference. Like, I'm worried here.
Well, I mean, frankly, I'm just glad that they went to the drawing board and pulled something out. Yeah. I'm so impressed by this so far. Of course, it is still the early game. This could still blow up in their face. Kiaya and Coded having a bit of a scrap, but it is two tanks fighting. It's not going to go anywhere. Down the bottom side, Levi spotted.
It's more or less always been the shtick of Saigon Buffalo to have these kind of unique picks readily available. Even back when they first started, that was really their big thing, but that's never really gone away, especially the support role. That's why the loss of Taki felt like it was going to be huge for this team, because Taki had, like, the most champions played of any support in, like, the world at one point. And so it's like, oh, what is Slay going to do to match that? Well, Slay's doing the same thing. He's playing a bunch of random champions. Yes, Zyra was played by Taki back in the day, and there was a bunch of other stuff, like Rumble support and...
Camille.
Of course, we always remember the Camille support. That was awesome. But, like, Slay, maybe he's not that crazy, I was crazy once, but like he is playing other random champions that have this kind of same prospect to it, and I think he does a better job of outright carrying with them, which is really cool. That he does better with gold than I think Taki did, and it means that when you play heavy to the bot lane, it feels so much better, which is an avenue that not a lot of teams can play for. Not a lot of teams can play around their support here in the VCS, and this is the first time we're really getting a big glimpse of it here from Saigon Buffalo.
I think one thing I do need to see come out of SGB soon-ish is I need to see a paranoia. I need to see Guri justifying this pick. He needs to get onto the map. So far, the bot lane's getting itself ahead. It really hasn't been Guri doing anything. He made, like, you know, he played that play on the bot side where he died, but it was, in the end, a good team play. But I need to see a little bit more out of him as they summon up the Herald. Now the lights are off. That's just a catch on the Froggy. Guri in some trouble. The charge will go in, but Guri still needs to try and escape. Dodging back and forth. He just goes down. That's not what I wanted.
Okay, so on one hand, I get kind of what you're saying, where it's like, okay, you want to see what they're able to do. On the other hand, if this is a restaurant, I sort of see like Shogun and Slay being the cooks and Guri being like the busboy, where like I don't want him cooking anything, right?
That's true. I want him delivering.
Yeah, I want him delivering, and so like. Also, right there, Froggy and Guri just were, like, flat trolling. Like, there's two numbers on their screen. They drop Rift Herald. Froggy walks under tower and takes the tower shot before getting rooted in place. And then they turn off the lights to no avail because there's 3 people within melee range.
I mean, like, this is... I think my Taliyah is cleaner than this, and I'm awful at League of Legends.
Like, he steps forward back into tower range, takes a shot, and then, like, the E is just mispositioned because Wukong comes from the opposite side. All before the lights turn off. Like, the lights turn off after this all goes awry. Like, that's not... That of all the boneheaded things to happen, like they're fighting against their own team at this point. It feels really bad. If you're Slay and Shogun, you are telling these two to not do anything dumb because they can win the game.
Absolutely. As SGB have pulled out the dragon, Slater tagged up, in they go. Coda doing so much damage, trying to catch onto Levi. Can they get the last hit? They can. Knock up onto Kiaya from that Zyra, I should say. Slay moving forward, doing so much damage. The dragon's gone down. They're turning it around, though. Slater, he's big. He's huge. He's gunning them down.
And now we're seeing, I think, what is the crux of how GAM can actually approach this, which is attacking from multiple angles. They hit 3 separate angles right there over the course of the fight, and I actually thought Froggy almost saved this entire play, and I'll talk about it in the replay. But the big thing is that GAM finally gets something to work for themselves. So look at this. They're attacking from 2 angles right here because they've got this insane flank with Slater. If they full turn, nothing happens. That's when the cutoff of the wall comes, and Levi's on the other side, and I'm like, they could just full turn. What if you just full turn for Slater right here, right now? Instead, they push into the wall. They put the Zyra ultimate very far forward. Palette's still at the top. And you actually have 4 directions of assault right now where Kadi's in the pit, just bullying Froggy, who is low health, after coming in with the wall before Slater finally gets to join. Yes, they get the dragon, but the fight afterwards is just so disastrous. And I think maybe that was the intention from Saigon Buffalo. I know they didn't intend to lose 4 when they started, but they kind of had to just make the best of what they could get, which is just the dragon in this case. And so they're now down 1,500 gold. And this multi-directional fighting is the hard thing because Zyra is really good from one direction, but she can't really hold 3 or 4 directions all at once unless it's basically on top of her. So that's the one difficulty, and I think GAM finally found that. So now they have to be cognizant. They have to control more space. Right there, they were in the dragon pit, and they had no mid or bot priority, and also they had behind their pit worded. So, like, that's just boneheaded. Like, that's not good enough setup around the dragon to be walking into that.
Completely agree. I'm sorry. I did have to go AFK there a sec. My dog decided to vomit. But I completely agree. They need to make sure GAM can only approach from 1, maybe 2 directions. Otherwise, this Zyra just really doesn't do anything. But SGB is going to be able to bounce back and pick themselves up a Herald.
And it does look like it's going to be Radiant Virtue, which means that Slay is not going to be operating on the same damage threshold with the gold that he's gotten so far in the game. Again, as a defensive resource, I don't think it's necessarily that bad. But I almost would prefer the damage here, because again, if you're holding one angle on your own as Zyra and you've got damage, that's a lot more threatening than, like, popping the ultimate. Wow, he just got chain CC'd. I wasn't even expecting him to die. He just kind of died to CC right there, which is wild.
Yeah, he kind of just got destroyed. Guri.
Please.
But they do get the tower. It doesn't matter in the end. He's just going to recall. GAM counter pushing in the mid lane. Might be able to get... They won't be able to get a tower, but they should be able to get a decent push, decent map positioning. And GAM are ahead in gold despite the excellent early game.
Yeah, pretty significantly. And even worse, I mean, Kadi's now on, you've got your Mythic and you've got your Static Shave up and running, so the damage is really going to start ramping up for this LeBlanc. This is where Kadi starts to get scary over the course of the game. And again, as a player of Zyra and as a warrior of all things flank, because you cannot cover every single angle, LeBlanc is a great champion when you're trying to find creative and unique angles here, especially with a proper wave control. Talia can help cover a little bit of that as well. Again, like you said, that rock slide, being able to kind of shut down another angle that she can approach from is one thing. But if you're patient enough here on the side of GAM, which we know patience is massive for them, they're a very patient team and they can pick the right time to go in. Kadi can find the right times to attack with this LeBlanc. Not to mention, again, the side laning has gotten a lot worse. The Night Harvester does not make it easier to deal with Kadi here in a side lane for anybody. And as a result, now Ornn has time. Like, they're buying time for Kiaya to get to 14, 15, start getting these upgraded items to come through. And at that point, Saigon Buffalo's early game advantage is just, not only is it gone on paper, it's just gone in general. I don't know that there's a way back into the game if they end up getting that back. So I gotta see a big fight going their way. They still have room to run with here. I think the Xayah being relatively powerful, and again, this Radiant Virtue is not going to make it easy on GAM to go diving into the squad. So they have to find an avenue here to get a big fight for themselves.
Yeah, I very much agree, and I think what's going to come down to largely is vision control. They need to control the vision. They need to be able to tell which way GAM is coming from and how they can use the Talia wall, the Talia Turbones to deny any potential angle. But I think that's really hard. You don't have a good support to do that. That's something Zyra, she's not great at walking into a bush and putting wards down. Froggy
on
surfing.
One hand, actually.
That's a...
I didn't quite catch the stun. That sucks.
Wait for it. I appreciate it.
Yeah, very, very much appreciate it. Also, it's hilarious because, as you were saying that, there's like 100 wards from Saigon Buffalo and Botside River right around the mid lane.
Oh, Shogun in so much trouble. Dusk just lives, but now he has to reset 15 seconds before Dragon.
Yeah, and all this warding, all this kind of pressure that they created in this river. Oh, no way!
So close.
Yeah. That was about as close as could be. And even Levi on the back end kind of taking some damage. They didn't take enough to deter them from going after the dragon, but you can give some props. GAM did some pretty nice things right there to be able to get themselves back. It was a little risque for a moment. If they lose Kadi, if they lose even one other member, there's very legitimate threat at going to Soul Point here. But again, their fact that they caught enough damage on a Shogun to shove them back even after all the grunt work that was done to get this vision down in the river, so again, these flanks couldn't come through from GAM, just doesn't matter because, again, they get enough health off Shogun, they shove them out, they can't fight, and now Saigon Buffalo have to wait even longer. They're losing gold advantage by the second against GAM here.
Yeah, and they need to find something. I like the Radiant Virtue. I understand everything you're saying, but I feel like Rylai's could have got a long way on Slay. It allows them to force things a little bit more, to potentially slow that Zeri down, find catches on this LeBlanc. But so far, it just seems like things have stalled out. And again, I don't want to feel like I'm harping on someone, but what is Nocturne for? What does he do?
In this game, I actually don't know. I was curious about that as well, because it's not a fast enough champion to warrant playing towards the bottom side. The only beneficial thing it's got is semi-global alongside Talia if they wanted to play the top. But again, they didn't play the top. They picked a tank, and they went, hey, we're just going to slam bot over and over again. But you didn't do that. You didn't even gank bot lane all that often. You went down there and you died one time as Guri, and then like your bot lane supported you in the river and ended up picking up a couple of kills. But outside of that, literally nothing you've done on the Nocturne for the last 3 games has made any sense to me at all. And this is a game where, like, again, the pure one-on-one against the Wukong, fine for the Nocturne, right? Like fighter versus fighter, Nocturne's going to be okay up against the Wukong. But like the influence that that Levi has had, and the impact that Levi has had, has felt so much greater than what the Nocturne has over the course of this game, despite the fact that they literally set up for the most simple game plan of all time. Go bot, walk bot, ult bot, does not matter. Just go bot, agree, and he just didn't do it. And now, I mean, he's sitting here as a Nocturne with like 1.5 items. He's never going to catch Levi in terms of kind of usability in a game like this. He's not able to side lane up against Kadi. The best he is like a dive threat or a preventative measure to try to make sure that Kadi can't go flanking over the wall with vision or anything like that. But even that feels like almost too responsive. The number of times he's used his ultimate late in regards like that has just, it's kept me up a little bit, being like, I don't know about that one.
Yeah, exactly. But they are going once more. The knock up onto Cardi's good, so they're going to take down a shutdown.
Okay, that's really big, and it goes on a Guri, which is my favorite. But again, given that it's Radiant Virtue on the Zyra, I actually prefer it because they need some more damage to be able to work with against this team, some additional bursts and things. Interesting.
Another play under the tower goes coded, all out, does have a lot of damage. Froggy's here as well. Kiaya probably in some trouble, but Slater reinforcing disaster for SGB.
Yeah, I'm a little lost on that one. That one feels strange. They like TP into bot lane and to set up Froggy to play for this dive, but then don't even play for the dive. Froggy's playing on the edge of the tower, almost auto-attacking it like he wants to break the tower instead, when the whole time Coded's basically in the face of this Ornn, doing anything that he wants. And all you've done now is give some additional gold and additional time for Kiaya to start scaling up. And again, get to 14, 15, start getting these Ornn items online for the rest of his team. Saigon Buffalo has not bridged the gap over the last couple of minutes, and they're starting to suffer as a result.
Another Nocturne ult. Slater just presses E. This is completely ineffective, and GAM's just on Baron. There are pings on it. SGB is sniffing this out, as they do have a TP, but you don't have Paranoia. You can barely get into the pit. This is about to be smited. Froggy coming in, some damage being dealt. Guri's already gone down. They trade back onto Levi. Kiaya is low. Slay desperately looking for something. Throws some damage over the wall, but can't find anything. 1 for 1, but GAM get Baron. You take that every day.
All the time. And GAM is just in a supremely winning situation at this point. Even when they're clustered up like that, Slay's ultimate just is not enough. The Radiant Virtue kept a couple of members upright, and it felt like they had the health to take a trade like that, but they just can't catch this team because Slater's fast, Coddy's fast, everybody's kind of fast on the way to escape. And as a result, again, it feels like Saigon Buffalo's run out of answers in a game like this.
Oh, Slay's just going to go down as well. Coddy just takes him down. This was such a promising comp, but it just feels like SGB didn't know how to execute around it, and GAM did. Slater coming over the back will find Froggy, guns him down, Guri jumping in, but he's not even going to be able to kill the Zarya. He just floats away. This Nocturne is useless, but they picked it 3 times.
It's... again, in the future, like, they have to change that up. Like, there's no way the Nocturne can continue to be just, like, the absolute preference pick. I don't know whether or not it was just killing scrims or what it was about this pick that drew Saigon Buffalo to this champion for Guri, but it has seriously not worked out even once. At no point have I been like, wow, Nocturne was the right pick in this circumstance, let alone in this game. And again, it's not blame towards Guri. The champion is just, it's not doing much. And... yeah, I mean, you can blame Guri, don't get me wrong. I'm just trying not to put him over the coals specifically because there's plenty to analyze in a game like this. The Nocturne is clearly, like, Guri might not be playing well, but, like, Nocturne clearly, even if it's any other jungler, probably also is not having the impact that it wants to in a series like this because it's just readied. Also, the substitution of Froggy, the first couple of levels were good, but, like, he's currently down 60 CS. He has not had pressure against Coddy the entire back half of the game. The walls and stuff have been kind of good. Again, his team fighting presence is there, as Froggy usually has, but, like, he's not carrying the game. They have to rely on Shogun to be able to carry the game. They have to rely on Slay to be able to carry the game, and they're just not... they're not strong enough. They didn't get enough gold into their bot lane to actually be able to rely on that consistently.
Yeah, and I feel like, as well, just to comment on Slay, I know we've said it before, but not going that Rylai's, I feel like really has bitten them. You had to carry from the bot lane. You got fed on the Zyra. You had the opportunity to step up despite being support, being that secondary carry. Now you've gone the Radiant Virtue, and then you've had to be the one to pick up anti-heal. This feels pretty bad. I really would have liked to see a bit of damage on Slay.
And we talked about this before the game, like, if you don't go Nocturne and you go, like, Scion or Sejuani, does that really change anything that happened in your game plan? And then if that's the case, you can go for something tanky in the top lane. You can go for, like, or something not tanky in the top lane. You go for, like, Rumble, or you can go for Cannon, or you go for Jax. And then you have a reason to be building Radiant Virtue. That works so much better because then your best performing, one of your better performing members in Coded gets
and they just go straight in, explode the Taliyah. Guri trying to use the ultimate to get out. Actually does trade it 1 for 1. The Ram comes in, dodged well by Shogun. Lovely Zyra ult. Oh, it's hard. But it just doesn't matter. They're too far behind. Slater's just too big. This Zeri takes them down. 3 members of SGB clean down, and it's the important 3 members as well. This will be followed by an inhib for GAM, and everything is going wrong.
Man, it really sucks because, again, it didn't feel like Saigon Buffalo's gameplay today was necessarily fully the issue. It feels like they just have not been able to pick out how to do it.
Coded, turning it around, he goes all out and does get a shutdown. He's goated! He's the best!
He's literally goated.
Yeah, coded to goat for real, no cap.
How does the coach watch this game? Like, how does Saigon Buffalo watch these games and go, yeah, I put coded on Cassante? Like,
well,
he's playing such good gameplay right now.
I mean, I might watch that play and go, yeah, man, I'll put you on Cassante again. Hell yeah. I know what you mean, though. Play around him.
Yeah, play around it. Do something with him, because it just feels so like such a waste that he's playing one of the best games I think I've seen him play, literally all split in a playoff game. Like, he's coming alive in a playoff game, and you were just like you're tossing him aside. You're going like, okay, he's an afterthought, right? Like, it just doesn't make a ton of sense to me. There's so many ways that you could have designed both the game plan and the draft around him better, and they just didn't do it. And I'm hoping. Again, right now we're kind of under the anticipation that GAM's going to win this one. They're up 7K. They've got the 2 Mountain Dragons. I don't know that they're ever killing Kiaya in this game. I just don't think it's going to happen. But, like, if it ends up being that they go to the lower bracket run and they have to make a really, really significant push to try to make that qualification for Worlds, like, one of the biggest differences I want to see is them seeing a game like this where they lose and being like, how would we have won it? How would we have done something positive? And that's a big change they need to look at.
Well, they're trying to kill Kiaya now. Does get knocked up by the Zyra, and with a great amount of effort, they do manage to take him down.
Yes. I mean, there's some return damage from Kadi. 3 members below 75% health, and Froggy was at a third of his health bar, and the rest of the team wasn't even there. That was just Kadi on his lonesome. But yes, they do get a little bit of something back. The bottom tower traded for it, unfortunately, is not a beneficial thing. So it ends up being, quite a bit lost here for the side of Saigon Buffalo in exchange for the one pick. But they at least get a little bit of breathing room, because now Baron's going to be up in a couple of seconds. About 30 seconds, and about a minute after that is when the Mountain Dragon's going to come up, and that's a soul point, and I don't know whether they want to fight over either of those, but again, it's a question of how much more can you expect to feasibly get in this game before you have to fight. So at best, you've got 5 minutes after the Dragon. Like, that's pretty much what you got. If you give up the Baron and then also the Dragon, I mean, they're going to be crushing your base, they're going to be expanding their gold advantage. It's a question of whether you think you can weather that storm with the Xayah and actually have enough damage to win out the game, or whether you think, hey, we got to fight for one of these objectives, we got to steal it now, and we got to start ourselves for some success here. I'm leaning towards that camp, but again, it feels unsafe. No way, he just grabbed it to kill.
He did. He just stole it.
That.
He stole it. That's really funny.
That's pretty funny.
As Carty hanging around on the edges. Completely uncatchable, of course.
Yes.
Levi.
As LeBlanc normally is. Zap. Okay. He does nothing to Coded. That's good. I guess Coded is super... He's a brick house right now, too.
Yeah, but look what he does to Shogun.
Oh my god. It hurts so bad to watch. He just does so much damage. It's like 1Q, 1E, and 1 auto, and he's just basically dead.
There is a bit of lock-up, a bit of damage fired back, but not enough. It just chunks Carty. Unfortunately, I think Shogun is more important to SGB than Carty is to GAM right now.
I would agree with that. I think Slater and Levi both still have plenty of damage, and Shogun is the primary carry here on the side of Saigon Buffalo. Like, you are not relying on Slay's damage, nor are you relying on Guri's damage, and you're not really able to rely on Froggy's damage because it's not high enough quite yet. He went for, like, the Leandries and the Seraphs, so it's not going to be to, like, 3-4 items that he's really going to be hitting hard enough to actually matter. Wow. Actually, they get him off the Dragon. Oh, no, they didn't. Okay.
I think they have to do this, though. I think this is correct.
Yeah.
You buy as much time with Slay as you can. Cardi's over the wall. The smite should be coming in any second. There it is, secured. If they can get out or potentially pick up a kill or two, this is really good for SGB. Slater's found an excellent angle. Can't quite get anything done. The first kill has come in, and the second. Oh, SGB's falling apart, Rebel. I think the Hail Mary was correct, but she was not listening as GAM get an ace.
Yeah, and just like that, the game is over. I mean, I can respect the fact that they went for the Baron. They actually almost got them off the Dragon, which I think was the fullest intention. Once the Dragon was taken, they were not committed to taking the Baron fully quite yet. It was only at that moment that they started it, and it's like, I think that's where their time loss was here. I think they were trying to pull them off Dragon more than they were trying to actually take the Baron, and as a result, that leverage just didn't work, and then they were too slow on the trigger, and they couldn't win the fight afterwards. There was just no way of having it happen. Game 1 looked great, Carrix. It was awesome. It was cool to see what Saigon Buffalo could do, and they did prove themselves a little bit more manageable than I think anybody would have thought, because this was expected a 3-0 very heavily for GAM. But you can see why, as the next 3 games, it's just all GAM all day. Saigon Buffalo just could not come up with answers.
That's very, very true. As sorry, chat. Brace for a Windows noise because I gotta try and get my camera working. I apologize. You might hear some things, but we're working on it. We're working on it. But with that, as you said, it is going to be GAM winning the series 3-1. I think game 1 was a really good showing for SGB. I think the Zyra was a really cool decision. It just ended up not working. This Nocturne, you've tested it. Get it out of here. Get it out of here.
No, don't bring it back, please. Yeah, it wasn't good. I think it takes too much to get the Nocturne actually valuable in games, and even when it gets into games, it's just not like... It's not doing what I think they want the Nocturne to be doing. I'm not sure what it is that they want the Nocturne to be doing, but it's not accomplishing whatever that is. And so it's like, you know, you are sacrificing so much by not taking a tank jungler, by not taking something that ganks and something that can frontline, and you're taking out of Coded's pocket. So it's like, okay, you could have Coded on a carry and Guri on something tanky, or you can have Guri on a Nocturne, and then you can have like Coded on like something like Cassante or something like that. And it was very clear to me as of this series which one of those I would prefer to have. And I think you as well, and most of the viewers probably would hold the same opinion, that Coded should have been the one that was getting the more aggressive champion, and that Guri should have been the one relegated to something that was not the Nocturne at some point, right? Hopefully that changes as time goes on. The thing that did still spark me was that Saigon Buffalo was super competitive. They came out and they played 4 games. They played really hard. I thought that third game was really competitive, even though they were down 10k. They were really, really scrappy towards the end of it, really trying to make things happen, really trying to make GAM sweat and work for their meal a little bit. So I can appreciate that. GAM fixing their early game 1 mistakes. Props to them. Like to see a little bit of adaptation in the composition still, because I don't like it when they're easily scoutable walking into a Worlds tournament. But again, so long as they're getting their wins in, that's all that really matters.
I agree. And we are going to end it out fairly quickly, given how late the series started, and it did go to 4. It's 1 a.m. here. And also, my dog just threw up on my feet. So we're going to go. Thank you for being with me, Rebel. I think we had a great time. And GAM will advance to that further in the upper bracket. Tomorrow, we will have more coverage of Team Wales versus Team Secret. It'll be Yulway and Milky with that one, so look forward to it. Good night, and have a good one, everyone. This is VCS English, and we're back.